Live.
That's right, Praise. Thanks so much, brother. We are live tonight. It's Evolution Beatdown. So we're looking forward to this. We're going to be taking on every single one of the evolutionists' best evidence for their philosophy, because that's all they have is imagination and philosophy. We've got a list of evidence that they use that we're going to beat down, as the title suggests. If anybody in the chat or anybody has another line of evidence that pops into their head, let us know, and we will demolish that. Because Raw Matt knows, when you see the comment sections in some of these debates, for example, let's say the modern day debates, especially the last one we just did against Adam Heap, it's like the arguments that they use, for one, most of the times are already debunked directly in the debate. So clearly they had their fingers in the ears. Two, we've debunked it in other videos or in our book or just in other debates. So they recycle the same old arguments, right? But yeah, today we're just going to beat them down. I'm going to hand it over to you guys for a second if you want to say a few things.
Sure, we'll just go around. We'll just go around. So I guess Jason, you're up.
I haven't got anything prepared. I was just getting prepared and lying down. Sorry, mate. You're up.
Like me.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we? Well, Matt, do you concur with what I'm saying? I mean, don't you just get a good laugh over the arguments or objections that you see in these comment sections? And the thing is, these evolutionists think that we got all the time in the world to have an all day long comment war. No, that's usually why we agree to have discussions, debates, and videos like this, because we'd rather corner the evolutionists live for all to see, right? Where they can't wiggle themselves out or go on Google or something like that.
Yeah, it gets kind of redundant. You know, they'll spend all day in a comment section when really they can just go to our work and find the answer or know what we're going to say. Or I mean, I don't know why they have the feeling that they're just going to monopolize all of our time with something that we've already answered and they just don't care what our answer is. It's kind of pointless, you know. They know that their side didn't do good, so they have to go to the comment section and save them. That's really all it comes down to. Right. I mean, it's really, really basic. I mean, I'm not going to get in some tirade because, like you said, it'll waste your entire day. I don't spend any time in the comment section anymore. You might see a comment I'll leave, you know, I'll go in there like once a week or something and leave a comment, but that's it. I'm gone. I'm not going to I don't even respond to anything anymore. It's just over. I even turned comments off on my channel. There's no time for that, man.
It's like with the nested hierarchies, right? How modes of transportation fit that nested hierarchical pattern. And then they'll try and point to, like, I know in our debate with Adam Heap, right? He said, well, I mean, I had an uncle who, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing, I had an uncle who had a bicycle who, you know, took an engine and put it on the bicycle. And apparently that, you know, breaks the hierarchy that is formed in designed modes of transportation. But that's just a ridiculous argument. For one, bicycles are not naturally designed and built that way. You know, he had to do that himself. Secondly, directly in the video that I made, I pointed out the fact that we can point to so many inconsistencies in their, you know, so-called phylogenetic tree of life, right? I mean, convergent evolution. Anytime they invoke convergent evolution, they're literally doing it because they've discovered an inconsistency in their, you know, in their evolutionary trees. Or loss of traits, for example. Adam Heap said that to you on the snakes, because you pointed out that the oldest snake that's been discovered in the fossil record has no legs. Actually, can you touch on that one? Because that was a great point. Because then Adam Heap had to say, and he's a herpetologist, by the way, former zoologist. He had to say resort to loss of traits evolution, which is another rescue device employed when there's an inconsistency in their hierarchy.
Yeah, he specifically agreed to it, which makes sense because it's actually not the oldest snake. It's the 4 oldest snakes that they have. So they have if you look in the chain, you would expect to see what evolution says happened is that if legs are actually a weak trait, that they would slowly be lost from the lizard, right? But that's actually the opposite of what they see. They see an immediate loss, like no legs at all, from the 4 oldest varieties of snake in their geologic column. And then all of a sudden, they have a snake that appears that has some remnant back leg things that they actually found the snake was using to actually grab a hold of something or swim with. And then another snake is just a different variety, had some a variety of legs, and then they disappear again, right? So their fossil record is the opposite of what I was telling them you need it to be. So if the evidence goes against what your story says, then that's actually a failed prediction in itself. And it doesn't show that they came from blizzards at all. And he was like, yeah, but legs are weak in the genetic area. Just more story, more guesswork.
All I see is loss, non-stop loss. Everywhere you look, like giant turtles, giant wolves, giant everything. Everything was bigger, smarter, stronger in the past. Everything. And even people, humans were bigger, smarter, stronger in the past. It's like they don't do it anymore because they're wise to it. But for a long time, like for about a year and a half when I first started, they'd always give me evidence of things that had lost, like legs and different parts of their body and different features, anatomical features that they'd lost. And I'd say, well, how's that evidence of evolution? You need stuff to be gained. And so the only evidence that I've ever been presented from them, because I've always asked for them to show me evidence of evolution with some gain or something, and they can't do it. None of them. There isn't one citation out there in the 70,000 citations, or something like that. I think 70,000 plus or less or more. I don't know, but there's a lot. Somewhere around about that mark, and they can't find one citation that shows one fact of evolution. You can't show one fact of creation either. But like we always say, the data does fit creation better than evolution. You have to really stretch your imagination out to get around it.
Well, they agree that plants are better when you go back in time. They're called heirloom plants, but yet when you tell them that happens in animals, they go, no, no way.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing too because you'll point out, and I noticed it in your discussion with Erica, and well, pretty much every discussion that you have with these evolutionists, they'll point to their so-called best examples of beneficial mutations, and then you'll point out how that example was due to a loss of some kind. Loss of information, loss of specificity, pointing out its deleterious effects. And yet they'll say, well, don't you know that that's how evolution proceeds? It's all context dependent. They'll say it's bad in one environment, but it's good in this, particular situation. Like with Lenski's bacteria, for example, it's like those bacteria are degenerate. There's a loss in functional information. You put those bacteria back out in the wild, they'll be dead on arrival. And that's the point. I don't even worry about asking them for any examples of mutations that add information, because they can give you one or two is not going to counterbalance the information loss due to all the deleterious mutations that are building up in our genome. Yeah. And that's why I always say it comes down to net gain versus net loss. Yeah, you've increased fitness in a narrow sense, but fitness, the best definition of fitness is total functionality. Total functionality, information is down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to bounce off. Bounce off what you guys are talking about with real evolution, if I may. Just give me like 1 minute to show some people real quick.
Of course.
Ah, sweet sizzle sauce. Here we go. I think you guys are gonna like this. You guys see that? So one thing that
now
you guys see that.
Yes, I can see that.
So one thing that burns me up as well, evolution, and what they purport is that somehow a dog-like ancestor added on mutations, and they could change, and somehow it morphed into a whale. So, I mean, here I want to bring some points up that kind of make that absurd. Number one, the hair from a mammal would have to change into blubber and eventually into a marine-compatible skin. I don't know about that. Number two, breathing apparatus must change. That's ridiculous. Number three, external ears would have to disappear and change into high pressure diving. And we're talking, this is high technology for that. Even our submarines, our submarines have this type of technology. Each of traits would require at least one structural protein. Each protein would necessitate 300 letters of DNA, genetic blueprint in the proper sequence. I mean, come on, this is so much information that needs to be added. It's ridiculous. Lactation systems must be designed. The eyes have to evolve protection. So that this thinks to itself, evolution, and there it's going to happen, it's a mindless process. So how does that work? The hearing must be altered. The feeding mechanisms have to change terrestrial to aquatic. Its nostrils would have to move from the top of its head and form a blowhole. And that's even more absurd than anything. I mean, that's just magic. It would have to develop a dorsal fin by accident. Its bony tail would have to change into a cartilaginous fluke. Its body would have to increase 80,000 pounds. This is mythology. This is storytelling stuff, and they're the ones accusing us of believing in fantasy and fairy tales. This is a fairy tale. The whale would have to be involved in two entirely different evolutionary events to have echolocation ability when one's absurd enough. 50,000 other major changes must take place. The probability this happened is likened to a blindfolded toddler typing several pages of meaningful...
Looks like there's a lot of feedback coming from Jason's end, and we just want to make sure everybody can hear what you're saying. Jason, can you mute yourself real quick, brother?
That's really bad. I'm sorry about that. I don't. What
the
hell is happening here?
Are you like in a factory or something?
Hey,
do you have a group of people vacuuming and cleaning your house right now?
No. There's no vacuum, no nothing. No, the house is quiet. I'm living in the middle of 300 acres and everything's dead.
300 acres. We're coming over to party.
I didn't know where that was coming from. I didn't realize that was coming from my end. I could hear that as well.
That's okay, brother. But my recommendation for whoever's not talking, just
mute. Yeah.
Everybody else be muted.
Sounds good now, right?
Sounds good, brother. So, my main point of this is, after you've seen the absurdities, you're not going to hear this from evolutionists. They're going to have a zipped up lips, because if they knew this, they would know their system. Their belief system would be in big trouble. The probability of this happening is likened to a blindfolded toddler typing several pages of meaning paragraphs in a completed book. There you go. You want to talk about credulity and faith? There you go. That's what I wanted to show people. I thought that was impressive. It's impressive faith to believe in such a thing called evolution. So I'll relieve to whoever wants to talk next.
Sure. If you wanted to think about biologically what has to happen as well internally for something like a land mammal to turn into an aquatic animal, every single gene function that's going on would have to change. Not considering the highly constrained HOX gene, which is the morphology gene. That's the gene that determines how you're going to look. So I can't even imagine that not only would that gene have to completely convert for some aquatic life to form or mutate, it would also have to change the gene functions themselves, like completely. That's just insane. If you think how many genes actually exist in a whale, and between, obviously we don't have one of those mammals that turned into a whale anymore. That's gone. Arthuriacetus, I think it is. But we know how many genes are in a whale. We're talking thousands and thousands of genes would have to convert over. That just seems absolutely absurd. That's what deep time does, right? You can just throw in a couple million years, and of course that can happen. So,
but that's supposed to have happened now in 8 to 10 million years. All of that. Did you know that? Did you know that the latest thing is from the geological column and everything? And I got this from watching Northwest Creation and all these other different channels. That it's been reduced down now to about 8 to 10 million years. So that little rat-sized or dog-sized rat would have had to have turned into a whale in about 10 million years, which is really pathetic.
Exactly. And it's just like, both Praise and Matt were pointing out the amount of changes, the amount of necessary changes in that small amount of time that you just pointed out, Jason. You literally have to, I've got a list here from Dr. Jonathan Wells. He goes over all the many complex adaptations that would have to arise to convert this tiny little land mammal, like you were saying, Jason, to a fully aquatic whale. Just to name a couple, there'd have to be the modification of the eye for underwater vision, emergence of the blowhole with musculature and nerve control, the reduction of hind limbs, of course, modification of the teeth. Major one, the forelimbs would have to be transformed into flippers. Changes to the hydrodynamic properties of the skin. A major one, reorganization of the musculature for the reproductive organs. What about a change in the birthing process, right? Where the fetus is delivered in a breached position for labor underwater that's necessary for the whales? Or what about the origin of tail flukes and its, associated musculature? So, and I could go on and on and on. You touched on the blubber, the origin of blubber for temperature insulation. Bill Morgan touched on that one tonight. So look at all the novel traits, the novel anatomical features, the novel information that's required in just how many millions of years did you say, Jason?
8 to 10 million years it's down to now. I mean, I can't remember what it was before, but it's I remember seeing a scientist, like a well-respected one, giving a lecture at some creation expo thing, and he said that it's down. He said that it's down to about 8 to 10 million years
for all of those changes. And then even if you actually focus on the specifics of the whale evolution, whether it's Ambulocetus, Pakicetus, Basilosaurus, I mean, you could literally go through every single one of them, Rhodocetus, one by one, and refute them. Pakicetus, I think it was way back in the day. I think they had it drawn and illustrated like an aquatic mammal, and then now we know it's just a tiny little land mammal.
Didn't they? I think Jonathan Wells, I think he reduced the time he found. I think they've been researched. He mentioned it's down to 4 million years or something. And so it's not your 100 million years. So deep time is not even going to save evolutionists on this. And when you see an animal it's a majestic animal like that, we know that's from a creator. I'm sorry. That's not an argument from personal credulity. That's just plain recognition of reality. I'm sorry. I mean, that's just the way it is.
And calling it science, though, is what really bothers me. They can believe it, capital B, or they can imagine it, capital I. But calling it science, that's contradictory and inconsistent to everything we know in science. Especially, I mean, look at Lenski's experiment. How many generations, Matt, have been observed? Let's say, let's break it down to human generations.
109,000 plus, and they're up to 2-point-something million years. If you go by 20, if you go by 20 years per generation, they're up to about 2.1 or 2.3 million years equivalent of human evolution.
Amazing. Yeah.
There's 10 generations per day. It's been going for over 30 years. You can work it out yourself, how many generations.
And what have we learned?
Find out when it started, and then just work out 10 generations of the type of Ebola he's using. It goes through 10 generations every 24 hours. So you can basically go and Google when the thing started and just work out how many days and work out the exact, generations.
So it's funny. So, after this many observed generations of Lenski's bacteria, what have we learned? Bacteria produce more bacteria, but not just more bacteria, they produce more degenerate bacteria. And reductive evolution is a very known phenomena in bacteria. And they're losing genes short term, but it's long-term degeneration, right? They're adapting for the short term for their environment, but they're doing it by throwing out so much functional information, which is why, as a whole, I think it's 12, maybe 12. I don't have it in front of me. 12 populations that Lenski's looking at, and they've all shrank in functional genome size. Yeah, that's really going to take your bacteria-like organism into a whale.
Some of them can't even move. Is that right? Standing? The bacteria, I mean.
I think, I think because of all the genes that have been lost and all the genes and information that's been thrown out just for short-term adaptation, just to adapt in such a narrow sense, while the total functionality goes down, it's only going to get worse and worse. And I love when they say, "Oh, bacteria," that debunks genetic entropy, the thesis of genetic entropy. No, we see genetic degeneration in bacteria as well. We see it in all forms of life.
Some of them can't even move. They're just laying there waiting to be fed every day, and then sort of they're getting so bad. I heard that about some of the populations somewhere. I can't remember where I heard that, but I'm pretty sure it's true. And I mean, if they're getting that bad, that they're getting that hobbled with that many terrible mutations and throwing away their genome like that, then it just makes me gobsmacked how evolutionists think that's evidence for evolution.
Right. Yeah, and certain people like Richard Dawkins, Matt and I put together a video, because in his book, The Greatest Show on Earth, it's called, he talks a great deal about Lenski's bacteria and how it's demonstrating evolution, large scale pond scum to people evolution right before our eyes. Like you pointed out, no, we've actually seen genetic degeneration, loss of regulation, mutations, just loss of information in general. But of course, the evolution is just going to say that's how evolution works. It's context dependent, but yet they can't point you to a truly beneficial mutation that's in no way, shape, or form deleterious. They're all reductive. They're all deleterious. Or, as Raw Matt always points out, they're just general adaptation, right? Non-random epigenetic changes, for example. And then those happen quickly. So those happen too quickly for the millions of years of evolution, that it should take for species and that types of adaptation. It's crazy.
Well, man was supposedly was like an ape 2.1 million years ago, weren't we? Weren't we supposed to be more like an ape than a human? And yet they've had equivalent of over 2 million years of human evolution, and the equivalent of in generation times, and they're not only still bacteria, they're just really sick, really weak, really disabled and sick bacteria. If you put them out into the general pop, they'd be annihilated.
Well, think about humans and chimpanzees, right? Chimpanzees only live half as long as humans. So if they split from us 6.5 to 7 million years ago, they've actually had twice the chance of evolution that humans have had, if you take that into account.
Wow. Yeah. This everywhere you look, that sort of thing. It's everywhere. All you see is loss. In every single paper we read. That's why the evolutionists used to always give. They used to always say, "Well, give me a citation, and any citation, you pick it, anyone you want, and just give it to me." And they stopped doing that after a while, because I just go through the citation and point out all the way through it where
This
they say
cherry pick data, right? But I want to kind of bounce off that point too. Is viruses mutation rates are crazy. I mean, they just mutate, and it's just. I mean, nothing ever comes out of viruses. They're the same damn thing. In fact, there's been viruses that have been extinct. So if anything, they go downwards.
He's losing fitness. I heard on the news somewhere that the scientists said that coronavirus is already losing fitness, but it doesn't mean it's going to save everybody, but it's already going downhill.
Well, it's like when I was debating emotionally stunted emoticon, and he wanted an example of something other than humans or something other than an animal that's domesticated, of evolution, of genetic entropy. And I said, okay, well, we can look at viruses because, like Praise, pointed out, they experience high generation times and high mutation rates. Therefore, if we're going to see if genetic entropy is true long term, let's look at it at a human virus. And yet, we know from the H1N1 virus, it went from a red hot pandemic. We know that everyone's talking about it today and comparing it to the coronavirus, to literally a whimper to an extinction event in 90 years. And evolutionists, they'll attack this data that I'm about to say, but they cannot explain why the H1N1 virus went extinct in humans. And yet we can see that it was due to mutation accumulation. It was literally due to genetic entropy. And it makes sense. That's the perfect thing to look at to see if how true genetic entropy could be long term. And boom, viruses go extinct. High mutation rate, lots of generations.
Yeah. The AIDS virus is getting weaker too. It's losing. I can't remember. I've got it written down somewhere. I can look it up later and post it. But in the chat, but the AIDS virus is getting weaker because it's actually throwing away proteins and all sorts of things, and it's actually becoming less efficient. And that is why they're being able to suppress it with the drugs. That's one of the reasons. Not the drugs have got better, but also the AIDS virus is going downhill. I don't know. You probably know more about that than me. Someone there.
Yeah, great point. Well, even just viruses in general, it's so funny. Like in my debate with Mark Drysdale, it was funny because before we went live, he said, "You know what, Standing, I'm in a bad mood tonight, so I'm going to be asking you some tough questions." So his first question had to do with viruses, and I showed him why viruses in general, the existence of viruses actually fits far better in a biblical-based model than it does in, their evolutionary model and position. And everything viruses now supports our position. And you get people like James Downer, they'll say like, oh, creationists aren't up on the data and things like this, it's actually quite the opposite. Because you'll debate these evolutionists and you'll point out the fact that like endogenous retroviruses or the ALUs or other classes of these retrotransposons have function. And then you'll ask them, are you aware of all these crucial functions that these classes of retrotransposons have? And they'll oftentimes say, no. And they'll even, scoff at it. And then you'll show them the technical papers or the sources that show just how functional these DNA elements are. But it's like, you're looking to ERVs as one of your so-called best evidence for evolution, but then you're not even up to date on the literature regarding endogenous retroviruses?
Yeah, it's endogenous retroviruses is something that the evolutionists love, and they love it simply because of that they know nobody can comprehend it or understand it, or 99.9% of people out there just go cross-eyed when they start talking about it. And that's why they love to get into conversations about it, because they know no matter how badly they do, as long as they can throw out a few big words here and there, that their brainwashed, idiotic evolutionist friends are all going to be on there claiming how they slaughtered the creationist.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
And then go ahead, Matt.
It's crazy because they've actually tested the mutation rates of these different things, and they've tested HIV because they wanted to track back its origins. And guess what? They now have a number. They said HIV has only existed for 220 generations. That's it.
Wow.
Very, very
220 generations. Whose generation? Oh, human generations.
Yeah, human generations. So if you give, let's say, 20 years, that's 20 times 220, that's 4,400 years.
Yeah. How many? Yeah. Okay, so 220, 400 years. So it's only been around for 400 years.
Well, 20 years times 220, that would be what? 4.
Oh, I'm not good math, unless I got a calculator.
I think 4,400, but I could be wrong. 20 times 200.
The flood. So basically, roundabout. It's close enough.
Right around the flood.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
4,400 years. That's right at the flood.
wow, that's and that's the evolutionists saying that. Is that
But what
Yeah.
about
right?
fossils themselves? Like, I haven't heard an adequate explanation from evolutionists how things fossilize. I mean, come on, there's a bunch of dead bones everywhere, chicken bones. I mean, and you don't see them in no fossil layer. They don't fossilize, and so it
Well,
had
let
to
me
be
ask
some
you,
type of, dirt, silt, or something that fossilizes these things. So our model is way better. Yeah, I think it supersedes their
it's
viewpoint
actually
big time.
it's actually empirical. Let me ask you, Praise. How many animals do you think died just today,
A
one
lot,
day on this planet?
millions. Oh my gosh,
Billions. How many
Yeah,
fossilized?
who
none.
like maybe
Not
one?
one.
Who knows?
Maybe one or
Maybe
two.
one.
Maybe one if
And
they're
just
lucky.
like Jason said, none. Because the
None.
thing is, environmental factors are going to prevent those
Yep.
billions of dead organisms from fossilizing. But according to our model, if it's covered by sediment and then protected, as we would say based on the global flood model, then the fossilization process can start, which means we can explain the existence of not just one fossil, not just 10 fossils, but billions of fossils. Great point, Praise.
Well, have you seen that there was a fish? You need the chemicals, the right minerals and that in the mud as well. I mean, have you seen when I argue with evolutionists, they always a lot of them say
Hey guys,
about how
Hey, Tony.
hey man, how's it going?
Sorry, Brave.
Sorry, man.
Tony, my good man, how you doing, brother?
Hey, what's up, guys? Being safe out there?
Being as safe as we can.
Yeah, I hear you.
Being safe means debunking evolution and abiogenesis.
Yeah,
Keep our mind off of what's really going on out there.
yeah. Amen, man.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I'll finish your thoughts there, Jason. Sorry, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've lost track. I'm tired. I had heaps of coffee earlier to wake up, and whenever I have coffee, my memory turns to mush. And that's one thing I've got to always be. If I ever, if I'm going to prepare for the debate in a day or two, then I'm going to make sure that I'm well rested and I don't have coffee and stuff like that, so my memory isn't, mud. It's terrible. I don't know why it does that.
Another thing too, back to the ERVs, Matt, we were talking about it the other day because a big problem that they have is understanding that a lot of the evidence they use, whether it's the so-called, mosaics, which they like to say are transitional forms, or the evidence in homology, or the evidence in, the nested hierarchical patterns that they look to. They'll say, because we'll point out that these endogenous retroviruses are functional, which is proof that they're functional DNA elements created, at the start by God. And they'll say, well, no, it's this is a common argument from emotionally stunted emoticon. It's the hierarchical distribution of them. We have more ERVs in similar locations with the chimp than we do with the monkeys, than we do with the dogs. And we'll point out that our model too expects the exact same thing. I mean, we don't even have to get technical. Of course, we would agree that we're going to have more similarities anatomically, morphologically, and genetically with a chimp than we will with a monkey, or than we will with a fish. And of course, more than we will with a bacteria. We expect these groups within groups patterns, of course. You can see that in modes of transportation. All sedans are incredibly similar, right? Yeah. Sedans are more similar to each other than they are to SUVs, but then sedans are more similar to SUVs than they are with boats and airplanes. It's the exact same thing, a nested hierarchical pattern. But then we got to look at the distinguishing evidence. And Matt, you noticed that in the last debate, we looked to DNA barcoding. We looked to, Y chromosome dissimilarity between chimps and humans, DNA function. And these are the parts that they struggle with, because these are the lines of evidence that actually demonstrate our position.
Hey, Stanley, can I say something? I know you're just to get off topic, but you got Luca in your chat. I know he wants to debate me. He's got no evidence for abiogenesis. He's been really on me for a few weeks now. I have no problem debating him, but I don't know where he's going with this. If you look at what he's saying in the chat, I don't know. I mean, we can debate abiogenesis. We can get into the RNA world. Whatever he wants to do. Bottom line, it's not leading to anything. So,
there's it'd be an interesting debate and discussion to be had, since he seems determined to show how valid it is or something. But I mean, at the end of the day, like you point out, there's no evidence for it.
Right. So I don't really know where he's going with this, but I mean, I can get into all the points. It would take me about a half an hour to go through all the origin of life experiments, and I could do that. I could also bring in PhD biochemist Fuzz Rana, and he could point out all the problems and all the, strict protocols and conditions that they're using that have no relevance to, natural chemistry.
What's funny is most evolutionists that I talk to be honest with you, and I think Raw Mack can vouch for this. We've had lots of discussions with them. You'll bring up the abiogenesis problems, and they even recognize that it's impossible to defend because there's absolutely no validity to it. And they'll oftentimes just say, okay, you can have that first life, right? They just want to give it to you because they know it's impossible to defend. And then they just want to get to evolution. It's a rare case where you get an evolutionist who's actually willing to defend such absurdity.
I will admit I can't prove God, and I admit that's a belief. I can't prove that. The atheist will not admit abiogenesis is a belief. They will try to push it off as scientific. They will push it to other planets. It happens somewhere else. That's not science. That's a wild assumption with no real chemistry backing it.
Amen, brother. Amen. They want to hijack science.
Yep.
They want to hijack the word science and say what they believe is science. And that's why I love when, Hovind, he'll bring up chemical evolution in his debates. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? They'll say it's not part of evolution. And Hovind will say, well, then why is it in an evolution textbook? Get it out. I've got the textbooks. It's right here. Get it out.
Yeah, they're in every textbook. That was also a great video the other day with Raw Matt, man. Want to give him a shout out. Good job, Matt.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Best out there. I think he's the best for sure.
Yeah. You guys are good, man. Speaking the truth, exposing this nonsense.
Shalom.
Well, it's hey, Gavin, how you doing?
Good,
it's
man.
like you pointed out, brother Tony. It's the thing that bothers us the most is how they hijack science. They call these things.
Did you yesterday or the day before with T-Jump? I'm sure you because I think you read the question to him where he was saying that you don't have to show abiogenesis under prebiotic chemistry. I mean, that's crazy. Okay, so where would you show it, man? Where is it ever going to be shown?
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't have to be shown in a lab and you don't have to show it in nature, where are you going to show it? In your backyard? It's like where are they going with this?
You get all the best scientists on Earth with the best lab that money can possibly buy.
Right.
Spend all the money on Earth. Right. Get hundreds and hundreds of all the top echelon, very, very tippy top scientists in all the world, and you can put them in a lab with all of the chemicals they need, but not just like base elements. Like we'll even give them proteins and all sorts of things, right?
Right.
And they still will not be able to put. With everything there that they need, every chemical, every protein,
everything,
every nucleic acid, every carbohydrate, every lipid, everything. You give them everything, and all the best minds in the world in a pure gold lab with all the best equipment that all the money on earth can buy, and they still couldn't make one single very, very simple virus or cell from scratch.
Totally agree. That's what I'm telling your guy Luca in the chat. I'm saying you can have all the activated nucleotides you want. You can have all the purified reagents, everything that nature, by the way, can't produce. So I'm going to give you all that stuff and the proteins. You can have it all. Produce this primitive cell. No one can do it.
Mate, what about each chemical molecule in that chain needs a certain temperature, needs the reaction to be started at the right time, to be stopped at the right time, because if it keeps going, it'll just completely destroy and go back to square one. It needs all of these different chemicals with all of these different temperatures and to be stopped and started at exactly the right times and then to be mixed with each other at exactly the right time. See, they know how complicated it is. So that's why they say, oh, it was an RNA virus that was first. But a virus needs a host to survive and to replicate. And so how did the virus survive and replicate without a host? And so on and so on. They've got no answers for any of it. It's like the Big Bang. It's like they appeal. That's the one thing that makes me laugh. Stephen Hawking's rescue device is quantum mechanics. Well, quantum mechanics you can't see, touch, taste, smell, hear them, feel them. They've got no weight, nothing, and yet they're completely invisible. They're completely whatever, and yet they believe in this invisible force that created the universe by popping a magic dot into existence that expanded billions of times faster than the speed of light, and then all of this blah 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 with all the chemical, all the.
We got Luca. We got Luca here. Go ahead, Luca. You got all your examples for abiogenesis. Let's hear one, man. Show me one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can
okay.
listen me?
Well, real quick, I want to thank Luca for joining us. I don't want to be like a lot of atheist channels.
Yep.
I don't want to be like some of the atheist channels where they all just gang up on the one creation.
No, let them talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Luca,
I'll let him talk.
Yeah. Go ahead, Luca. Thanks for joining us, man.
Okay, you can listen me?
Yeah. Go for it, mate.
I cannot show abiogenesis. It's happening a long time ago.
Right. Yeah. Great answer.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Ago. Wow. So well, God happened a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Luca, what would you say is the most are they advancing in abiogenesis? What would be the best evidence that you could present? Let's say somebody like Tony, that abiogenesis is at least plausible, and you can take your time.
That's the best evidence I've heard.
No.
Go ahead, buddy. I'm listening. 'Cause you've been calling me out for weeks now, and your answer is pretty vague. It just must have happened a long time ago. That's not science, pal. We're waiting for the big grand example here, like Richard Dawkins. He's got all the evidence.
Okay. The best one. There are two main experiments now. One, it's
let him gather his thought.
You want to write some stuff down before you start? I mean, I don't know where you're going with this, man. Luca, you there? I think we lost them. Standing?
It's hard sometimes when you get on live.
I'm some problem with my internet. When I'm speaking, you are listening me after a while. It's quite a problem for me.
Are you saying there's a lag?
Yes, I have a lot of lag.
Not sure. Maybe it's if you use your computer audio or computer mic, would that work a little bit better?
Yes.
Like, are we coming in through when can you hear our audio at least when we talk? So I'm guessing it's taking you a while, Luca, to hear what we're saying.
It's very delayed. I saw that happen on my computer today. There was a bit of a lag, and yeah, so it keeps getting it like about 30 seconds later, sort of thing. I think.
Well, I'm not too sure how to fix that. I mean, Luca, if you want to try and fix it in the meantime, maybe we'll toss it over to Tony just to.
I appreciate Luca for coming in.
Yes, I can hear you.
Much respect, Luca. Thanks for coming in and chatting with us. I just, like I said, I really don't know where you're going with your arguments. You've been texting me or in the chat and writing me on YouTube. Your argument basically was you can't show abiogenesis, but it happened a long time ago.
Okay, I try.
Go ahead, man.
That is gone.
Okay, so we're gonna get past that now. So I offered Emo if he wants to comment in and give his best argument for an abiogenesis or even another one. So, yeah, so we can either go back to our discussion, or we could talk about an abiogenesis. It's up to you guys.
Whatever you guys want, man. That guy's he's been calling me out for a while, but I guess his opening statement was we can't show abiogenesis, but it happened a long time ago. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, but he was what he was trying to. What was happening was it was coming through. He was getting a lag of about 10 to 30 seconds.
Okay.
So whatever he said was taking 10 to 30 seconds to come through, and then he'd start to get his talking and get his thing through, and then someone else would say something, and then it'd come through another 10 seconds later. I'm pretty sure that's what was happening to him, and that's why he was getting messed up. But maybe he's fixed it by logging back in now.
Okay, now you can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
You can hear
Oh,
the whole
okay.
thing.
Oh.
That was good.
Good. I was telling you, there are some experiment now. One for sure is to try to obtain a cell with less genetic information as possible. There are taking away some material, genes, and they are trying to know how can a cell can live with few genetic information, RNA or DNA. There is this kind of experiment to know how can a cell can live with less and less things in it. Another example is for sure there are actually creating artificial cell. So there are taking some DNA, RNA pieces, some structure. They are that they are not alive as they go on, and they put it together to create life, and they are okay with this. They are creating life.
Luca,
for now. Okay.
Can I ask you something, Luca?
Mm-hmm.
Find the exact experiments you're talking about. Be specific, number one. Number two,
okay,
they are using, most likely, I'm very skeptical, but I'm probably going to guarantee you they're using pre-existing parts from donor cells. When you say...
I'm telling you that they are, but
yeah,
I'm also telling you that there are experiments. You are asking me what are the best example. Okay, they are doing experiment, and there are two major experiment going on. The first is they are trying to have a simple cell. You have a living cell. Sorry, it's English, it's not my first language.
Yes. What experiment are you referring to? Because there's the RNA world, Jack Shostak. There's Craig Venter, who copied a pre-existing genome under very controlled conditions, and he inserted it into another pre-existing cell membrane. So what experiment are you talking about specifically?
It's not a RNA world. For artificial cell, there are a lot of experiments going on right now.
Okay.
Sorry, I just get up to from my bed, so
Okay,
I didn't research.
Okay, I mean this. I mean this respectfully, but that's not abiogenesis. That's genetic engineering. That's intelligent chemists going into the lab under very, very highly controlled conditions and copying genetic information from other cells. That's not
They're
life
not
from
actually
non-life.
copying it. They're not copying it. They're taking it from other parts. They're taking DNA from one cell and then putting it inside the skin of an emptied out cell type thing, and then building it from bits and pieces of already working genetic material. That's what they're doing. It's not evolution. It's not proving anything at all. They can't even make a simple protein, let alone, you know, a cell. They're not making a cell. They've got artificial cells, like artificial cell walls and that. But one thing I just want to tell you quickly, Luca, and I will shut up after this. There's 40,000 different lipids identified in a cell wall. Now there's one lipid layer, there's a carbohydrate layer, and then there's another lipid layer. And like I said, the 40,000 that's only the ones they know about, the 40,000. Then the carbohydrates are so complex that they make lipids look like a child scratching on a piece of paper. They're so unbelievably complex that the carbohydrates even make DNA look easy, look like a child scratch. There is so much complexity. There is so many. There's millions of them, or hundreds of thousands, or millions of different carbohydrates. Now, how do you get 40,000 different lipids plus millions of different carbohydrates? Then you've got cells. Then you've got proteins running all the way through each of these walls, and they're allowing any chemicals in and waste out, and you've got all these machines, and then you've got these microtubule machines. They build these highways, and then they break the highways down after they build them, because if they left these little strands up all through the cell will become brittle and break. And you just go on and on and on and on with the amount of that's just the skin, mate. That's not including the DNA and all the machines inside, and you know, the RNA and everything. The complexity is so unbelievably mind-blowing. That is why Richard Dawkins said that it is, and I've got the video on my channel of him saying this, it's conceivable that some alien race seeded Earth, that this alien race evolved by some inexplicable Darwinian means somehow. And that's how bad it is. That people like Richard Dawkins will even admit that life is just so complex that the complexity would absolutely blow. If you blew a cell up to the size of a city, it would be more complex than a city. When you go in with all the layers, all the machines, all the thing, mate, what they're doing is they're just taking bits and pieces of already existing life and then adding it in. And now I'll shut up.
Okay. I have a bachelor in chemistry. Okay. Some of you ever been in a lab? I'm asking you because
I've never been.
When I was graduating, okay, I was working in the lab of my university, and I was creating a polymer. I was working in thermoelectric.
Luca, did you just hear what you said? You said you were creating a polymer. Let me ask you a question. Did that polymer
James Tour's work, right? You know James Tour, right? James Tour.
Yeah.
You know
yes. I know James Tour. Can I finish my?
Yeah, let him talk, Jason. Let him talk.
Yeah.
When I was creating this polymer, what do you think I was doing? Because when you say intelligent chemist that creates something, what do you think a chemist do in a lab?
They use very highly controlled. They use very controlled conditions that have no relevance to natural chemistry. And Lee Cronin just debated.
You say so, but
yes,
it's not exactly.
Yes, it is. Yeah, because
yes, it is. I was creating this polymer. Yeah, you know what thermoelectricity is? What is this field of chemistry? Okay, what I was doing? It was organic. because there are two fields, main field in thermoelectricity. What do you think I was doing in the lab?
Making what? Tell us.
Yeah.
Okay, I was doing this polymer, and the reason to do that for me it was to test it, but it was a polymer to transform heat in electricity.
Okay, well, a polymer doesn't lead towards life.
You mean
a minute. I'm trying to take down a point. Okay. It's a very complex polymer. Okay, and I was mixing only three things to do it. It was not so complicated as we think. It was not impossible to have it in nature. Okay. Chemists are very smart.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of ways to obtain what you want.
Okay,
but don't think that there is intelligence as you imagine. Okay, you can have a reaction.
Yeah, you can have a controlled reaction, and a polymer, number one, is not leading towards proteins. And what you created has nothing to do with abiogenesis.
It was not a protein, okay.
Right, I know it wasn't a protein, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. Richard Clemens, who's a top origin of life researcher, and I have the paper. I've sent you the link a couple times. You didn't want to read it, but he's a top origin of life chemist in Germany. He admits openly that he uses highly controlled conditions that have no relevance to natural chemistry anywhere in the universe. He uses purified reagents. He uses sterile test tubes. He copies genetic information from other cells. He admits this. And he is an origin of life chemist. So if he's a top researcher saying, hey, I'm using borrowed parts from other cells, I'm cheating, he's openly admitting this.
But what do you think? Do you need to know to?
Impossible.
Oh, sorry.
Lee Cronin, and look him up. I think you might know who he is. Lee Cronin admits that abiogenesis is unfalsifiable. It's not really science. It's just they just got to work things out.
Why it's not falsifiable? I think there is.
I've got the video of him actually saying that, and he's one of the top evolutionists in the world.
Right, and he's all. You know what else he says, which is hilarious? He says he doesn't know what life is, but he's going to design it in his lab and use no design.
Hilarious.
But what I trying to say to you, it's in a lab. It's not like you think. It's not.
Yeah, it's controlled. It's highly controlled.
Yes,
Luca.
but
highly controlled.
There are only few parameters. Only few way to control a reaction. Okay, there are some clever way to do it, but it's not something that cannot happen in nature. You said early that
sure
you cannot have this kind of condition in a lab. Why?
Right, because you're never going
to outside the lab. Outside the lab. Why?
Because chemists are selecting what they want to put in their experiments, and they're getting the desired results they want. Out in nature, do you know you get chaos? Do you know what racemic mixtures are?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so no scientist has ever solved that problem anywhere. How would you? I'm going to ask you because you're a chemist. How are you going to get all left-handed amino acids?
You can have chromatography. Okay. Can happen in nature. Why not? Or a stereochemist, or a stereoselective reaction.
And who's selecting
Why
it?
You cannot have one in nature?
Because we've never seen homochiral molecules ever form in that nature. You can select it out. You can do it. The intelligent chemist, absolutely, I agree.
Why you cannot not have a chromatography in nature?
You tell me why. You know why.
I do not know. You know what chromatography is?
I can send you a couple papers on the chirality problem because James Torr goes into great detail on that.
I'm telling you something. Why you cannot have something like that in nature? what chromatography is.
If it worked, they would show it, don't you think? I mean, if you could separate them, don't you think they would show it?
You know about what I'm talking
tell me.
about? Okay.
Tell me.
Okay, chromatography is a way, physical way.
If you have right and left hand, yeah, go ahead.
If you have two left-handed and right-handed molecule, they can interact with some structure, dust. Chromatography is, in simple, you have this glass structure in a lab. You fill it with dust, or dust, it's not a good term. Let me be okay. You put inside this kind of material, and you can sort two kind of molecules, a liquid. It depends. Okay. Why you cannot happen in nature? You can have some kind of dust, some kind of material in some spot, and this material can interact with the molecule. You need to understand that abiogenesis is not something that is happening right now. It's not a process that doesn't stop. You can have a molecule, and that molecule can stay in a place for a long time. And something can happen to this molecule. It can be a reaction, a stereoselective reaction, or chromatography. Why it's not possible?
I would say because they're always in a backward configuration, and that's all we've ever observed. And even the top chemists in the world are saying this, that these mechanisms actually don't work. And I can get you papers on it. I'm not a PhD chemist, but PhD chemists are telling me this, including James Tour, who's a renowned chemist. He's telling you you're not going to have this mechanism.
It's a statement of faith, okay? You can understand that.
Well, I wouldn't say... Yeah, I have faith because I believe in God, and I admit I can't prove that. You believe in some
bias. It's not good to have a bias in science.
No, it's not. But you have to show progress for your hypothesis, and you haven't.
But we are trying, okay? It's not impossible. In nature, you can see that life is composed by chemistry, and there is nothing particular about it. Okay, you can have some really complex structure, and it's fascinating, but you cannot say something made it just because you need to prove it. Okay, we are trying, and there are a lot of proof about it that life can arise in normal condition. Okay,
I wouldn't say
you cannot say okay, God did it.
No, we're not saying that.
But
we're not just saying God did it. We're
people
saying that
like Tour, if you say okay, he has a statement of faith, so he's telling you that the Bible cannot be wrong, and it's a bias. It's wrong to have a bias in science.
We haven't. Yeah. We're not.
And I'm no expert about this, and I did not prepare because I'm on video, and it's 8 in the morning. And I just get up off my bed. So.
But Luca, I would say you're doing the exact same thing. You're building a straw man. You're eliminating a creator immediately. You're invoking all these chemical mechanisms that have never been shown, by the way. You haven't shown this even in a laboratory. You're assuming this will be solved one day in the
yes.
No, no. You're assuming these processes and mechanisms will be shown one day in a lab. They've never come close.
But I'm telling you, it's not impossible to have a creator, okay?
Okay.
I do not believe in one, of course.
Right. You believe in abiogenesis, which doesn't have the evidence.
I do not
Lacking.
believe in abiogenesis.
Okay, so you're agnostic.
No, it's nothing. Abiogenesis is nothing about faith, okay? It's science. And
No.
I do not believe in it. If you show to me that abiogenesis is impossible, I will not.
Luca, it will never be impossible to you. Do you know why? Because you'll push it to summit, because you have to believe that it happened somewhere, somehow.
I have to.
Absolutely.
You know that I'm an ex-Catholic, right?
Right. So am I.
Okay.
And I was an atheist.
I do not must believe in anything, because Catholics are not are accepting evolution.
Right.
It's not a problem for me.
Right.
Evolution or abiogenesis.
Right. We're probably not going to get anywhere with this standing, but I would say that you believe in these mechanisms. You haven't shown them. You haven't shown the chemical pathways from non-life to life. Nowhere close. Lee Cronin just debated James Tour, and he admitted that he has no clue what life is and how life can happen, but he's going to design it in his lab. He's going to use all this designed equipment to try to figure it out. And that's fine. I don't have anything against that. We should be able to create artificial life. But does that help your abiogenesis? No, we've copied it. We've copied life. We've copied it. We've never
for now. But if you have a strand of DNA or an RNA,
where are you getting your DNA from? But wait a minute, that's information.
Wait a minute. It's alive.
Where did the information come from? If you're just going to tell me DNA is a simple chemical and it can form over millions of unobserved years, that's nonsense. That's garbage. That's not science.
I was telling Anthony, it's in the call because there is no... But I was telling him, in a DNA strand, RNA strand, what's the important part? What's the thing that
you have a backbone and you have a sugar. Ladder? Yeah. No, I don't know everything that makes up DNA and RNA.
Okay. So there is someone here that knows what is the part in the strand that interact with the other strand and form the ladder.
Well, okay, you would need proteins. Luca, you got to start.
It's not proteins, please.
No, but you have to have proteins. You have to have a protein to do any of this.
Wait a minute. I'm not there yet. Okay. Okay. I'm telling you, there is a part. There are three major parts in a RNA or DNA strand. Okay.
Sure.
There is a sort of polymer. Okay. But a nucleotide, the single part, it's quite hard to. A polymer is made of subunits. Okay, a single subunit in DNA, it's a nucleotide. Okay.
Do you know how unstable all this stuff is under prebiotics?
It's not my point. Okay.
Right.
This part has three parts: an acid,
sugar.
Okay, yeah. And in Italian it's azotate,
phosphate backbone.
Okay, where you have the interaction with the other strand, and what kind of interaction are?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay.
Tell us all.
The third part. Okay. So
Luca, time out. Yeah. You're talking about formed genetic information. You're talking about DNA, RNA reactions, proteins. We have no. We don't have any of that yet. We have inorganic molecules. We're trying to go from non-life to life. You're jumping to DNA and RNA.
No, I'm
just you went about
a part of DNA. So
no. You don't have DNA, man. You don't have DNA and you don't have RNA.
Yes,
yet.
I'm.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
You are. It's not my point.
I know you don't really know what you're talking about, man, because you don't. How are you going to go from chemicals that are, first of all racemic? Number one, you're going into RNA, you're going into DNA, you're going into proteins. You just jumped about 1,000 steps forward.
I'm telling you, you do not need DNA or
you don't?
RNA.
Okay, so you don't need DNA and RNA.
Simple molecules.
You're going to build a cell just with proteins. You can't even build a protein, man.
You can have a protein. Okay, all right. They can form.
Proteins can. Wait. Whoa! Stop right there. You just told me that a protein can form.
Why not?
Oh man.
Anybody
want to jump in here, man?
Yeah, I think we should probably get to the next subject. Luca, if you can give your 3 best evidences for evolution.
I was telling you.
No one's ever produced a protein.
And I can put for abiogenesis.
No, you show me a paper where a protein is formed naturally. They would give you a Nobel Prize right now, man, in chemistry.
Yeah, it's impossible. 100 and what is it?
Stephen Meyer and James Torr have a whole video on just how proteins can form. So, Luca, you are way off, man. Way off.
Why you cannot have one? What's the process?
Impossible. One protein, impossible. I'm trying to find the information now so I can tell you. I'm just trying to search it out.
Yeah. No, they're having a lot of problems trying to engineer proteins.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find the search. I found it. Search function.
The RNA hypothesis is about to die too. That Skotzak, he was the major guy with the RNA world. He withdrew his papers. So I mean, it's going backwards. Nothing's gaining traction in RNA abiogenesis.
Yeah, it's not leading to anything. I mean, I call it stalemate chemistry because they take 10 steps forward with their genetic engineering and then they go 100 steps backwards.
But what do you think? Do you need to know to prove or disprove abiogenesis? I'm curious
to prove it, I would say, I guess what Jason was saying earlier, you got to have all your chemicals. You got to put them in a test tube and they have to self-assemble. You can't have purified stuff. You can't have a chemist stopping the experiment and controlling side reactions. You can't have a chemist putting in activated nucleotides. You're showing deliberate design and you don't even realize it. But, you have to be in denial. You really do when it comes to abiogenesis.
No, what I'm telling you that you cannot have a single reaction with simple chemicals. Life. It's quite an experiment. You can understand it. Okay. Well, you need to prove a step, another step, another step, another step.
Yeah, and you have to build
the scientists doing. They're trying to do so. And I was telling you the third part.
Okay. I have one more question. One more question because we're not getting anywhere with this. You've made up your mind. Let me ask you how they would prove abiogenesis under purely unguided natural conditions without the intelligent chemist. In other words, take all your chemicals, put them in the test tube, and show it without the manipulation.
Okay, there is an experiment, and it was posted on my Facebook. You can not have in a lab these kind of things because it's quite a big experiment, okay? But you can do a simulation, and it's what they are trying to do.
Okay. Let me know when that advances and you get this cell. I'd be really curious if you could actually do it.
I'm trying to find it. Okay.
I would say your biggest problem is the activated nucleotides in the RNA world. That's the one thing. If you look up RNA world problems right now, that's the first thing you're going to see.
Allora, what was
Yeah.
a minute because I need to.
I find it incredible the level of just denial that the atheist has to go through, and the mental gymnastics that they have to go through just to deny that there's no intelligence behind all these origin of life experiments. It's just astounding.
It was called planetary simulator, and it's a software, and it's running for a while. I think 2 years as for now, and it's trying to to reproduce abiogenesis, not just on the Earth, but in the galaxy, because there is an hypothesis that some of the molecules are formed away of our planet. It's just an hypothesis. It's not. Not something there is a good evidence for, but it's an hypothesis. Okay. And I'm trying to find it, and where I can post it if I find it. These kind of things.
Luca, if you want to come back with a PhD chemist, and I'll come back with a PhD chemist, and we can have a debate that way.
Okay, we can come back with a PhD, but
yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that.
I'm here to defend my position myself.
Well, you're going to look really foolish in front of a PhD biochemist, man.
I'm not a PhD, but I can study, I can learn.
Well, I mean, I've got some papers here by PhDs, and they're telling me
I would love to read it. I'm not against.
Send me the link on that other hypothesis too. I'm curious about that.
Okay, I'm
man.
trying.
You got my YouTube, man. I just I just don't think you're understanding the controlled conditions that they're using.
You say so, but I actually worked in a lab, and
right. But you do know that no lab has ever come close to showing abiogenesis. Do you understand this?
Yeah, it's not that simple to have one. It's
even if it was a multi-step problem. But wait, Luca, even if it was a multi-step problem, which is what Aaron Ross says, he says there's abiogenesis is comprised of thousands of steps. No one has shown the first step to lead to anything. In other words, even if you, let's just say you manipulated all this RNA, even DNA, I think Jason said even proteins, everything, what's going to make it all self-assemble and come alive?
But when you say come alive, I was telling you before, a DNA strand, it's alive.
No, you don't have life with RNA. Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, you don't.
No.
If they are creating...
No, dude, man, you're way off, man. You do not have life if you have manipulated, designed RNA in the laboratory. You are nowhere near life, not even close.
No.
The point is another. I'm telling you, there are creating one artificial cell. Okay.
Yeah, and we went over that.
Telling me that you need a DNA strand and other portion of a cell, but these portion are alive.
No. RNA is not alive. Self-replicate.
Okay.
No.
So you have some things that are not alive. You are putting it together, and
wait. Stop right there. Stop right there. Who's putting it together, and who's putting the information in the molecule?
A chemist or a biochemist?
Wait. Say that again. Who's putting the information in the molecule?
A chemist or a biochemist?
Okay, so an intelligent agent. Wait, stop. Is it happening on its own, or is an intelligent agent doing it?
Right now, there is a chemist doing it, or a biochemist. Okay.
Okay. Right.
But
exactly.
how you can have an experiment without a
I
chemist?
just told you. I just
or
told
a
you.
biochemist?
I just told you. Take all the molecules that's needed, put them in the perfect solution, have them self-assemble, and produce this primitive cell. You shouldn't have to use.
So you are doing something. Okay. You cannot have a experiment without a scientist.
I agree. But the level of control has to relate to natural conditions, does it not?
Yes or no? It depends.
Does it not? Yes or no? No, I'm asking you a question. Does it have to relate to natural chemistry, or does it, if it shows manipulation, then it's no good?
But if you have an experiment, you must control it. But
No. Then it's not. Then stop. No. Then you're not showing abiogenesis if you're controlling it. Your molecules get destroyed under natural chemistry. James Tour has a whole video on this.
You need to show the steps, but to have these steps, you must control the experiment.
Okay.
You just need to show that something like that can happen in nature too. That the condition you set can happen in nature.
Okay. But
you need to control the experiment.
Right. So it is highly controlled. That's my point. You're not showing unguided prebiotic conditions anywhere in the universe. So if you're putting in what you want and you're getting the desired results and it's all done under intelligent agency, you've moved away from natural chemistry and you didn't even realize it.
It's
yeah, I know. We got a lot of denial here, but we're not getting anywhere.
It's not denial.
Yeah,
I'm
big time.
You.
Hello?
No, you're not telling me anything because Lee Cronin, a top origin of life chemist, hasn't shown anything.
But you...
Yeah, I know.
How can you tell that they show anything?
Well, I told you 3 times. I'm gonna tell you one more time, and then I'm going to bed.
Okay.
They use homochiral molecules, and you know damn well that in nature they're all racemic. You know that. You have a mechanism that you say can work, but it's never been shown. It's a hypothesis. Number 2, they're using activated nucleotides, are not found in nature.
And I'm telling you, you do not need RNA or DNA. You can have another acid. Okay.
Yeah. And you know where all this is going to work? In fantasy land.
Why? How can you tell that it's impossible?
Everything that has been shown has been contrived.
But I'm telling you, if you are doing an experiment, you need to control the experiment.
Well, then
you just need to show that can happen in nature too. But of course,
no. Stop right there. This is where you're in denial. If you're putting in the experiment what you want, and you're stopping it at certain times, and you're removing chemical reagents that you want or don't want, you've left natural processes.
But if you show that these things can happen in nature, if you show that...
Wow, okay. We're not going anywhere. Yeah, this is a broken record here, but all right.
It's not.
It's not.
You need to show that a process like that, it's impossible in nature.
Well, they have never come close. So yeah, you can just keep saying, you could say this till you're 100 years old.
You are saying that they are never come close, but they have results. Okay.
No, a hypothesis is not results and highly controlled.
It's not a theory, and I can agree with you. It's not a theory. It's not a fact, like evolution. It's not a fact. I cannot show you to be true like a fact. I cannot.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Luca. I appreciate it.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Stay safe, man.
Yeah, it's bad up here.
Nice to talk to you, Luca. Oh, yeah, no, he's still there. Good. Nice to talk to you, mate.
I mean, we got James Tor. I can send you some more papers, but as far as you with the RNA world and the proteins, you're way off, man. I mean,
maybe I made a mistake. I'm a chemist, not a biochemist. Okay, I'm not a PhD.
Okay.
And I'm arguing with you, but without any preparation. I just woke up, be invited here, and I'm here.
Sure.
You know that when you speak about something like that, you need to prepare. It's not something you can know.
Right. Do you know about Jack Shostak? Then he retracted his papers on RNA research?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I'm trying to copy your links and want to read them.
Yeah, I got Richard Clemens, German origin of life chemist, PhD.
I do not know every single people.
These are guys, yeah, I don't know them all either, but these are guys on the front line that are, telling the whole world that this stuff is highly contrived, and they're admitting it in their papers.
Yeah, but I do need a little bit time to study these papers you are sending me and do a rebuttal, of course. Okay. It's not I can talk about you about things that I do not know.
Right. All right, man.
I'm here just to tell you what I'm thinking, and it's important to know that it's not a faith issues, because it was not for a Catholic. It's not, and I'm no longer a Catholic. It's not the reason because I'm not more. I no more Catholic, and so it's not the thing that draw me away from a religion. Okay, I'm just talking about it because I do like science. I do like to engage in this sort of conversation, and I'm not biased. Okay, if you show me that's impossible, it's okay for me.
And
I want to give you an example. Okay, I was a little child, and I like a lot of people really do like Jurassic Park. Okay, and I was really fond of dinosaurs, and now I know that my favorite dinosaur, Velociraptor, is really like a chicken, and I do not like it. Okay, but
well, let me ask you,
evidence.
if you wouldn't, right? So that's a fantasy, but yet you don't consider abiogenesis a fantasy. You have no examples of it whatsoever.
I do not think as abiogenesis as a fact. I think it's possible.
Okay.
I think it's scientific, and it's a good hypothesis. It's not a fact.
No,
so I'm not believing it like a
billion universes.
Yeah, I mean, you're never gonna, Luca, you're never gonna falsify it. You know what you're gonna do the rest of your life? All you're gonna say is that abiogenesis happened somewhere else. It's never gonna be impossible to an atheist. They have to hold on to it. They have no other option.
Yes, you can. I can think a couple of things that can make.
Oh, what? God? Yeah, a creator.
Okay. You show God. Of course, it's a good step, I think. But if you show me that,
I would be curious what the third option would be, because abiogenesis hasn't been shown, God hasn't been proven.
Well,
so what's the third option? Aliens? I said we haven't proven abiogenesis. We haven't proven God.
Not resolve anything, because if you have aliens, you need to have a creator of aliens. Okay,
exactly.
And abiogenesis, we are in step one, of course.
No, I wouldn't say even step one. I would say you're in step one of copying things. You're not showing how any of this stuff could form naturally.
It's not an easy thing to do. You understand that, right?
Yeah, I would say
I'm just here to say that it's not something so impossible, and there are not two options.
Luca, I could say the same thing about God, and you wouldn't consider that science. If I kept saying the rest of my life, "Oh, God's not impossible," God's not, you would say, "Well, no, that's not science." All you're doing is saying that abiogenesis isn't impossible, and yet you're putting forth no real evidence for it.
There is a difference. Abiogenesis is about physics and chemistry, and we know that those exist. With God, you cannot show a God, because even if a God exists, is not in the reality. Okay.
So you've eliminated something
you cannot
immediately.
show with science, and a God can exist. I do not believe in it, but I cannot say that a God does not exist. Okay, I cannot prove it to you.
Right.
But it's not in the reality. You cannot show me a God.
Well, no, I
can't.
You
can show me chemistry and physics.
Okay, I could like we've been saying for 30 minutes now. I can give you all the molecules and chemicals you need. I can give you the smartest, most brilliant minds in the world, the most designed equipment, and you still can't do it.
That's impossible to prove, because if you start like that, you will never find.
Well, I would say if I gave you all the parts to an automobile, you would need a mechanic to put it together. Number one. So if you want to just think all this stuff can come together and self-assemble, that's you believe that, man. You don't have the chemistry to back it.
Just think. Take people from the 80s, no, not 80s, from the last century, when the nuclear technology was not a thing, and say to him, show me how an atom work.
We can observe
it's not that easy. You can understand that. You need years and years of study, and I can tell you what kind of things chemists and the scientists in general are doing.
I know.
To
you gave the
something.
same.
Okay, yeah. You cannot tell me that I'm not an expert. Okay, and I know. Show me this kind of thing. It's not that easy. You can understand that.
Yeah, you emailed me last week. You said we can't produce a volcano in a laboratory.
Yes.
Right, but we observe volcanoes. Volcanoes are observed every day.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no relevance there, man. Like we've been saying, we can give you. Yeah, we can give you all the chemicals.
We can reproduce some condition of a volcano in a lab, but I cannot do it in my backyard. It's what was telling you. You were telling me, okay, show me abiogenesis in your backyard. I cannot do it. I do not have the
Luca, you can't show it anywhere. You can't even show it in the most advanced laboratories in the world.
I'm telling you what kind of experiments they are doing. Now I'm taking your links.
Yeah, you get my links. I'm sending you stuff, but you seem to ignore what they say, and
I'm not reading it yet. Of course,
let it come.
It's quite hard to do.
Yeah, we're not really getting anywhere with this standing, but I think it's just denial at this point. And like I said, you know, some of these top chemists in the world are having a really difficult time, you know, engineering all this stuff in the lab, and it's not. Yeah, intelligent agents are doing it, and they're still having a very, very difficult time. This is really hard chemistry.
A scientist to do an experiment, you know it.
Well, okay, are you familiar with the Stanley Miller experiment?
Yes, and it's a very old experiment.
Tell me the problems with it.
The condition that they think it were in the prebiotic years were not right.
Well, that would make
And
it harder.
you show some molecules forming,
Right,
but
TARS.
there were wrong conditions. It's
so what are
a very old experiment.
Okay, so are the conditions a total mystery?
Right now, I think that we have a better understanding of it.
Oh, okay. So you have a better understanding, but you still can't show it.
But you will never be
all right.
Sure, I think.
Right.
But
so you have
I'm not an expert on these topics. So
Okay.
I know that the knowledge about it is changed.
Okay. Well,
the
I'm gonna-
experiment about Miller
Yeah.
and Hurley was an old one, and
Okay.
it's been improved. It's
they've tried that experiment for decades, and it's always a failure.
It was wrong. It were the wrong conditions. So if you do it again, it's you are doing it with wrong condition. But I do not think it was a bad thing, because at the time they thought that there were those conditions, and they tried, and they have some results. And it's what scientists do. You have an hypothesis and you try to prove it.
At what point would you
sometimes you get it wrong?
Right.
Oh, it looks like he went backstage. So yeah, we're gonna try to finalize this and conclude
Sorry,
it.
guys.
And Jack, I'm not. So you wanted to say something, Jack, or?
I was going to talk about some stuff or ask you some questions, but I mean, really, if you're going to quit, it's all right. I'll wait some other time.
Oh no! I mean, conclude with this Abiogenesis stuff. So,
yeah, I'd like to hear what you got to ask.
Oh, I'm actually more of it looking at it from a kind of a different perspective. I'm not really a geneticist or anything. I'm just a pretty normal guy. I'm not a dumb guy, but I don't do that stuff. But I'm kind of looking at it more from a different view. I don't get God. To me is a very vague word, and so maybe you guys are kind of looking at this more of a Christian perspective. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to figure that out, and also I'm trying to draw a line of where this creationism thing starts and evolution thing ends. Like, so where are you guys basically saying it is God, and then what kind of God, and where is he pulling the strings at? You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a good question there. Oh, yeah, keep going, Jack. Keep going.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of trying to figure out, mainly, I guess, your ideals on where that starts, where that ends, and kind of like, as even at one point he was saying, like, oh, well, what is it? What else is it? Aliens? Well, that's what I mean. I don't like. You could say it's a creator because, for example, we create ourselves. We create life. We create even organs now. So we're doing all this crazy shit ourselves. So it's definitely not impossible for something to create with these tools that we're given. But when is that? What God is that? I don't get. And how do you? Is it Jesus? That's kind of, I guess, what I'm starting with or asking.
I think that's some good questions, because oftentimes when you debate whether it's abiogenesis or just a more general debate titled like, does God exist, or is there evidence for God's existence? Those are kind of a separate, you can use separate arguments for that, but then you want to narrow it down to which God, right? And then we've got a whole nother set or group of arguments, in order to decide or differentiate between, let's say, the holy books, right? Is it the God of Islam? Is it some polytheistic God? Is it the God of the Bible? And then that's usually where we would, like, if we can come to an agreement that, okay, there's evidence for a creator, there's evidence for a designer, for example. Well, what designer is it? Well, that's when we look to, let's say if we started with the Bible and Genesis, for example, as a starting point, now we can start making predictions, retrodictions, for example, and we can see if they're accurate, or we can see if some of the predictions would come true. Like, let's say if we looked at science, right, genetics, biology, for example, that's how we can come to an understanding as to who the designer is. And that's a whole other set of arguments that either myself or Matt or even Jason could point you to. But go ahead, Jack, take your time.
Well, look at it a little differently. Like, I get that you could do a whole bunch of different gods, but what I mean is, you guys are trying to say it is a creator, but say that this creator, okay, is because you don't know what kind of creator it would be, whether it would be Jesus or some kind of godly, like spiritual kind of creator. If it is, what if it's just a energy creator, like just a flat ball of energy that keeps kind of growing as we grow, as whatnot grows, and it just doesn't have a mind. It just is.
Are you talking about
when you look
deism?
at it? I don't know what you'd call theism, but I more look at it like
Deism?
if you think of this God as completely not, doesn't have a mental or just some kind of, he's not trying to change what we're doing, because they always say, we have freedom of choice. So really, if we have all this freedom of choice, he can't control what we're doing. He doesn't really then have a plan, what, and then you're right back to kind of what evolutionists believe. And then there's right in the middle, and then we're stuck always arguing over, well, it's a God. But then they're like, well, no, it's just chaos in nature and life, and it just does this magically. And all I can see is just that never ends right there where you can't tell what God is, what kind of thing he is, what kind of strings he has on it, and whether he's just kind of chaos or not.
Well, I couldn't give you an answer to what God is. I don't think any of us truly know, but I asked the atheists a similar question. I asked them, what is the multiverse? I mean, how would you describe it? How would you prove it? How would you test for it? Because they give pretty vague answers on what all these other universes are.
The multiverse shit's too much.
I mean, I can answer that. I think that's obviously false. I mean, to me, in my understanding, though, because if you think about it, the cause of the universe, since we have space-time and material, the cause of the universe has to be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, and it also has to account for the laws of logic. So laws of logic are absolute. So we have to have an absolute cause or an absolute standard for that. And anything physical is automatically put out the window because we have everything's finite when it comes to space, time, and material. So when it comes to absolute causes, it needs to be obviously the God of the Bible is the perfect candidate because he's a necessary being. He has all the attributes that can account for causal agency, the teleology in the universe. So we have what we would call the what's it called? Like we're in the perfect zone. I forget what they call it. We live
Goldilocks.
the Goldilocks zone. So I mean that all comes into purpose. I mean, if you put the puzzle pieces together, the God of the Bible is pretty easy to come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And another thing is that I also believe that when you were talking about, well, I don't understand why there's a God that's going to be intervening from prayers, and then if that happens, that takes away free will. That also comes down to kind of not really understanding what the scripture is talking about with prayer as well. If people today pray that their favorite football team wins or when they lose their car keys, it's become ridiculous and redundant. When prayer is just a communication with the God of the scriptures, with the God of the Bible, and it's a communication that you want to have to to talk to your Father that's in heaven, and that's kind of what it's about. It was never really supposed to be for selfish kind of things like I'm sick, God help make me better, and kind of those things, because obviously that type of intervention would take away free will, so it'd be kind of a waste of time. So I hope that kind of answers that thing. And another one would be the same thing, like, well, how can we determine what God? Well, unfortunately, we're stuck with whatever existed that we found writings for. So we have the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita in India. We have the ancient alien theory from Zechariah Sitchin, the Earth Chronicles. We have Buddhism. I mean, we can go down the list of all the different major denominations and try to go back to the original. That's what I usually tell people. Go back to kind of the start. If it's just some watered down version that was originated last year, like Scientology or something, then obviously we shouldn't count that as something that's absolutely true. So we kind of go back to the beginning and we look around and see what makes the most sense with statistical values and probability based on what the scriptures say, lining up to what we see in the world today. And that's how I did it anyway. So, I mean, we can get into more of that, but I just wanted to get that thing out about prayer real quick.
Hey, Raw Matt, when you talk about M theory, I think you were talking about that a while back. You know, I mean, that's kind of their magic in a way.
Yeah, matter of fact, M does stand for magic. Correct. Yeah, M stands for magic by its creator. Until they come up with a better theory or more evidence, they haven't yet. But you know, they've got to have something to go by. And the origins is the hardest part. That's why there's a lot of just kind of like, well, until we advance more in science, it's just going to remain skeptical up until that time.
That's what you just heard from Luca. I mean, he's never going to admit that, you know, it's never going to work. In his mind, it's always going to be possible. So, I mean, that's kind of what the theist or the deist would believe. I mean, God is, we can't prove it, but I mean, it's not impossible. And that's, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what they're doing for abiogenesis.
What are you saying is not impossible?
Yeah, what's hard for us is God is spirit. So God doesn't have a thing for us to grab a hold of, like a nucleotide or a chemical that we can put in a dish and say, well, there's God, we found him, you know. So it's a little bit harder. But that's why God was excluded, because they say, well, God is in a naturalistic method that we can't test, so it's outside of that. So therefore, the materialistic realm became everything that's science related. And they just push everything else out. That's why they don't allow anything God related in school anymore, because it's not naturalistic. They don't believe it, so it's just outside of the theory because they consider it untestable. We say that it is testable, but it's already excluded.
Through a medium. Intelligent design is a medium. We can do through information to cell, irreducible complexity. I mean, we have. There's so many things. DNA barcoding now. I mean, there's that's also to me a misconception. Or purpose. People are trying to just it's a part of their worldview, it's their philosophy. They don't want to believe in God. And it comes down to sin and all this other stuff. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Good point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, good point, man. I definitely agree.
Well, let's give Jack some time here to give us his thoughts on everything that's been said, and maybe Jack, you can go over like what you believe, right? Do you hold to evolution? Do you hold to universal common descent as a way to explain the life we see? Give us your thoughts.
I'm not really a, guess you could say, a God believer. Definitely. I mean, as I said, it's vague, the creator thing. I don't believe in Jesus or, well, you know, even for example, if like it's going to be Jesus creating it, then, you know, obviously he's a very supernatural God that has a lot of power. And to me, this world seems very chaotic, and whether I like it or not, you know, there's good, there's evil, but it's consistent. It can't be ever stopped. It's always at war with itself forever. It always has been. That's one thing you can prove. It doesn't matter how scientific you are. You can tell that no matter what, there's never been an animal that hasn't fought to the death to survive. There hasn't been a time where we haven't went to war with each other over the same principles we're even talking about.
Well, that's man's sin. I mean, I know you don't want to accept the Bible.
It's life.
Well,
animals do it.
Well, the Bible, but the Bible does have an explanation for that. I know you won't accept it, but there are answers to that, to why things are like that.
I mean, there's answers to anything. For example, prayer. You know, I mean, prayer works. and I'm not say that I'm not even Christian, but I know that it works. That's a fact. It communicates. It brings a community together. It raises emotion. It brings in unity. There's so many things it literally does that you can just say it works, period.
What's your best explanation for the origin of the universe, and how would you test for a multiverse? I'm just curious.
Multiverse. I don't know the science behind the multiverse thing. All I know is they believe that there's like other layers and that we're in a dimension or a hologram. And that shit's so confusing to me because they can't even tell me what kind of hologram we're in, how we're touchable by a hologram. And then on top, that gets so wackadoodle, man. They're gonna have to get more evidence behind the
kind of bust
multiversity stuff for me to get into it more.
I want to bust that canard too, though, that somehow multiverse somehow takes away from the existence of God. That's not true. Do you know there's philosophers that are actually...
No, but that's the thing. Listen, that's a perfect example real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's a perfect example.
I want to bust a canard, though, that somehow a multiverse contradicts the existence of God or takes away from, like, we don't necessarily have to believe in God. That's actually a canard. That there's actually physicists and philosophers have said it enriches the existence of God. If anything, so it makes even the existence of God even more grand, and that's what they're saying. So I mean, that so what if there is, I mean, infinite universes? I think it's pretty awesome. It shows the awesome. It bears witness to our awesome Creator.
But doesn't that take it farther from your Creator? Or, well, I don't mean to be like that, but really, it's like each time that say that we were to somehow find out there's a multiverse, that's a whole nother scientific realm of wackadoodle that we're now into, okay? And then it's like, oh, well, it's still the Bible God. You know what I mean? But he hasn't been telling none of us this shit. Hell, he was chopping down towers, when we were trying to rise to the skies, and now all of a sudden, it's like we're answering all these damn questions for ourselves, and we can't, like, it takes away from humanity's claim. Like, in a way, it's our curiosity. We were the ones that took the ships to new lands. We're the ones that are going out into space. We're the ones that keep climbing this mountain. And every single second, it's like, he was doing it all along,
It comes down to eternality, though. I mean, there's only a few handful of faiths or gods that can fit that criteria. So it comes down to the Judaic Christian faith. I mean, really, if you look at the attributes that are required for the sustainer of the universe, and also I would say even looking to fine tuning that. I don't know if people have heard of Hugh Ross, but he says the gravity wave telescope is fine tuned to like the 20th trillion power. Well, the universe is 70 times past that. So whatever the cause is, it's 70 times past intelligence of humans. So
George Ellis compares the multiverse to a bread machine, and he says, well, bread is complicated, but the bread machine is 1,000,000 times more complicated and highly calibrated than all the trillions of universes that it's producing. So it doesn't really get the atheist out of anything.
No.
Well, I mean, in that way, you could call somebody, everybody's going to be like, well, no, you're agnostic. You question God. And then you think there's like this hope. I could possibly believe in him. But in reality, they might think, oh, yeah, they're always going to come to that same conclusion with most of these people. Okay, it's a creator could do it, but whatever thing that is, I don't know. And he's not going to tell us. He's not trying to tell us any soon. And we still are going to have to make all of our own answers. And all of our own answers have came from the unknown. Just curiosity about finding answers to that shit. Not most of the time from any of the scriptures. Not that they do bad.
Well, I mean, the scriptures do have answers. I'm sure of course the atheists reject the Bible, but like I said, there are answers. I mean, there are, reasons for this. You may not accept it or like it, but we do have explanations. I know you're going to reject them.
Yep, exactly.
No, I don't reject anything. I am very open, but as I said, the balance thing to me is very realistic. And when you have somebody that seems to be navigating the strings, it takes away from the fairness of the game also.
I
And
would
then you
agree, but
think
I would say
you feel like,
whatever.
and then you feel like I don't want this operator here doing that. I almost would rather have this natural balance of things where I know that there's some way I can control it, and I don't have to be loyal to a certain section of the hierarchy or not. And then when you're like, okay, it's this God, it always forms this hierarchy in this chaos. You see what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, now I'm picking a place, and now I'm aligning myself.
Yeah.
When it should be just random.
Well, I tell you what, man, I didn't like my father growing up, but he was still there. I mean, you may not like God and the rules that he set up, but he might be there.
I don't hate him. Like,
there's
you know how Santa Claus works for little kids too, you know?
Well,
and it works really damn well. It
Yep.
presents this kind of thing, and I like it, you know, and I like God too. But there's a point where I find God to be people make him an end zone. Like you guys, you're open. You don't make him an end zone. You guys believe in science because you're all very smart. I've been watching you. I have a lot of respect for you. You're smart. You know what you're talking about. You guys know what talking about is about science. But you haven't made God your end all. You haven't been like, I can't answer the question. So you know, I just have to have faith. You know, it's him doing it. You still are trying to figure out how he's doing it. There's a lot of people out there, that's their end all.
Yeah.
Well, leave it up to him. I don't need to know the answers.
What do you think is pulling the strings, so to speak? I mean, if it's not God, I mean, what would be your best explanation for, I don't know, how it all got started? I'm just curious.
No, I'm randomness.
Okay, but how did
dark and light led to one thing, and then that led to another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and
well, you got
actually you want to know a crazier theory? To be quite honest with you, is I think it's continual. I think that there might be a big bang. I think that it explodes, it comes back in, and like we recycle it over and over and over again through a very long amount of time, and it's just a continual thing. And so, like, even though instead of multi-universes, I believe that there was just been an indefinite one that's gone on and on and on and on and on.
Sure.
We had to have somewhere in the first place.
Yeah, that's what they do in India. That's the Mahabharata. That's what they believe. Every 24,000 years. No, it's much longer, actually. 24 million years, I think the universe recycles itself over. We're on our fifth one right now to them.
I think it's the Big Bang and then the Big Crunch. And then the Big Bang and the Big Crunch. It just...
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of these theories floating around. Like, for example, right now, have you guys heard that, like, gravity is supposed to maybe have mass? And there's different things that make me think about it. And you know how, like, for example, people get explosions wrong in space, and they always talk about the Big Bang. But if you see space as a vacuum, it, like, bangs and it sucks in real quick, right? Ever seen that? Have you ever wondered that if we're in a bang, but instead we're in the suck part in, like we're coming back towards the middle?
I think
and then they talk about stars going away from each other. Well, but if the ones that are coming closer to the middle of it are faster and going towards it faster, which would make perfect sense. And then we're going away from the ones farther away. And so we're spreading out more.
But what's the mechanism that got it going? Because Lawrence Krauss believes in this quantum vacuum. He says it's nothing, but it's actually something. What is the mechanism? I'm still curious to what the mechanism is.
Maybe it's God.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually research now that it's modern research and it's quantum information, but they're finding information as a property of the mind. So it's an emergent from mind, and it's so easily demonstratable. In quantum mechanics and through the double slit experiment, observers are necessary for existence to even be possible.
Who set the laws of quantum mechanics in motion? Laws need a law.
Good question. Yeah, that's what Max Planck said. I mean, he was a deist. He was a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, observers of the Matrix. Yeah.
The Matrix. Yeah, I mean, what started the Matrix? I mean, how did it start? I'm open.
No. I just think that, if we're going back towards something, and what if we all go back towards something, it blows up again? Recycle.
You still have to show what that mechanism was, though. That's, I think, where there's no evidence still.
In the first place.
Well, we got a lot of stuff pulling on us. That's the whole vacuum idea, and it would make perfect sense that if we're getting sucked into something too, that would make a reason for us to be, spinning, getting sucked towards the sun, getting stuck towards warm areas. All the materials are getting kind of more sucked towards to each other.
Right.
I don't know. It feels like it explains a lot of shit,
So,
but you
Jack,
never
let me
know.
ask you something. Is the moon there when you're not looking at it?
Yeah.
No, it's not. In fact, I'll even cite you this from from PhD physicists. That's what they say. The moon's not there when you're not looking at it.
What, you mean it's somewhere else?
No, it just means that it's a figment of your it's figment of your consciousness. See, consciousness is it transcends reality. So I just want to put it that way.
Like Matrix?
No, like it's just everything
Like the
around
moon's not
you.
there when I don't see it because
Right.
it's not in our digital framework anymore. Like I'm watching this all through a VR headset, and since the moon's not there anymore, it's just not there because it's not programmed in that thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, to put it, it's just reality is not objective, and I think that's a universal. I mean, it's pretty much a consensus now. If there is no such thing as fundamental anything natural material, that those things just don't exist. So it's really coming to mind. It's coming to idealism now. I mean, we're coming into that revolution pretty soon. So I think you should check into.
Dude, you honest to God, you know Alex Jones believes in that shit? I mean, that's Alex's Jones's thing, is the multiverse. You know who else believes in this multiverse? Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the multiverse. Do y'all know that?
Well, so does Don Page, and he's a Christian, but he just thinks that there was an ultimate God behind it all.
I don't know, man. And you know, some of them believe that they got to tap into the AI. They got to tap into the AI mainframe, so that will help them learn to go to the other level, and that they believe that the other levels are eviler, and that's kind of like the hell. And they're trying to bring your negative energy down to their multiverse level, and that the heaven is the God part, and it's trying to bring you up to its multiverse level, which is more less sinful reincarnation type. I don't know area.
Are they the lawgivers?
Better.
Are they the lawgivers? Because I'm like, somebody said, where did the laws come from?
Especially the laws of logic.
This stuff gets kind of crazy to me. That's what I mean. It's just too much. Like it's a sci-fi plot at that point.
But isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how the atheists will invoke aliens, all these other dimensions, all these other infinite universes, but God is total, fantasy.
Yeah, that does blow my mind. That's why I'll never say I'm never going to say that. Yeah, this creator can't be, and I'll never say that he possibly didn't bring down a disciple like Jesus just to help us out one time. It is reasonable, because if all that other shit is reasonable, yeah. But I don't know. It also can be, to me, I think just chaos seems just way more explainable. I mean, every single time you're always asking why God at the same time as you're praying to him. And have you ever just thought, man, it's just like Russian roulette? For example, it's this damn virus. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know damn well that I can't see a godly instrumental, he has all things planned out, unless he's literally trying to make sure that he creates the population down. And in that case, why isn't he making us smarter to get off the planet? Can he help us there? And then we're all dying from a coronavirus. It feels very random. It's always hitting older people, nice ones. It doesn't matter who you are. I like explaining that to randomness. When I explain it to God today, that makes me hate him. You know what I mean? You explain it to randomness, you can't really do anything about it. You're just going to have to fight it. Try to make peace out of it.
I think that speaks volumes, man, when you just said that you have hatred towards a creator. I mean, there are reasons.
You can love him too, though. You can have days that you love him. Like when I look at my child and I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? How did I make this cool little kid? And then I'm like,
so Jack,
the unknown.
I think your emotions are not reasonable. I'll explain. So let's just say God did stop the coronavirus. Do you think he would be next required to stop the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, and then even bumping your toe would be him required to stop. And then if he takes that away, then there's no such thing as reality. Reality is futile and it's needless. And then what's worst of all things is living in a worth or useless reality. It's futile reality. So think about that as well.
I do. I find a peace in that. I guess you could say I've been doing that for a long time with my life. I've definitely found a peace in that I like. I mean, that's kind of what, for example, you got mosquitoes, right? They fucking live to die. They live for months, they die. Live, breed, die. Live, breed, die. Annoy the fuck out of us, then die. Their existence is so meaningless in a way. I mean, it's for the bigger picture if you could think about it, but to me, it's almost like another chaos evolution. This little bug just managed to figure out this way of fucking keeping on going. It sacrificed so much of what it needed to do this thing because this just worked for it. And then you got chickens. You know what I mean? The damn things evolved over time. They don't even run. They don't fly away anymore. We've bred them over time to be fat and lazy and pathetic. And you can obviously see how our effect just changed their life. And, when you see this kind of chaos, you're like, okay, well, that's how you make peace with it. It's like part of what it's supposed to be. You never know. For example, we could go into the future and chickens are going to be right there with us. And why? Why? Because we decide they were delicious. They're going to run along with us all the way through space, time. And they picked that smartest decision. And who would have thought chickens right there beside fucking the kings of the world or space? We're creating everything and we still got these fucking chickens.
Yeah.
Well, again, I mean,
did they make a good choice?
Well, I mean, we don't know who's doing the choosing. We don't know where the laws came from. We don't know where the first chicken came from. We don't know where the first cell came from. We're back to the very square one of trying to explain, how it got started. So, I mean, I see your point, but again, it's ultimately not answering anything.
Hey, is that the name of your channel, Jack? That
I don't have
Jack
a channel or anything.
Oh, you don't.
I mean, I guess it's my YouTube account.
Oh, okay. So you don't have like any videos or anything that anybody can comment on?
No, sorry.
Well, upload anything. Upload a 1 second video of complete darkness and silence so someone can comment on it. Because I'm mostly on a phone and it'd be nice to be able to share a few links with you and stuff like that.
Oh, over the YouTube. Oh yeah, I think.
If you upload like a video that's even just for a few seconds and just title it comment video,
and that just makes you have a channel,
then we can comment on it.
Yeah, I never mess with being YouTubey. I always just kind of mess with watching it.
But you mentioned something about mosquitoes and chickens. But according to evolutionists, they're our great grandfather. So we're reduced to mosquitoes and chickens. So think about that maybe. Like our humans are distinct. We have moral, the ability to make moral choices, to do supererogatory acts, and that means to go above and beyond what is considered to be like general morality. I mean, you have people like, let's say, soldiers step on a grenade for another person. I mean, that doesn't work in evolution. Evolution would say that is crazy. So think about things like that as well.
Well, real quick,
an evolutionist argument. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to say I'm enjoying just kind of sitting back and listening to the discussion. It's interesting, but I think a lot of what Jack is mentioning, and I guess things that bother him, whether it's the chaos or in the world that we see. But I think entropy that Ram and myself talk a lot about. Whether it's entropy in the universe or genetic entropy from the fall that we read about in scripture. I think that can explain a lot of the issues that you're having, Jack. And I kind of wanted to pass it over to Matt real quick just to see if he's on the same page as B with that explanation and kind of what his thoughts are on that.
Yeah, we can answer pretty much everything with our model being genetic entropy. Like, there's a video. Obviously, he didn't see this if he's new to the channel because it goes back months now, and I mean, I've made hundreds of videos since then. But it shows the genome of an ancient man, and it shows that they had less overall mutations. Their health was better than ours today. They were thriving, as where today we're riddled with disease. Did you know that every year, or I'm sorry, every 3 months, the human genetic database adds 6,000 new genetic mutation diseases to their database? That's horrible. That's annually like 24,000 or something. So we see diseases going up. Now, most people go, well, why isn't God intervening? Well, I mean, everyone would know he's God then. And besides, when he did intervene, it was unfair because he was intervening with our freedom. So you can't have it kind of both ways. But what I'm getting at is when you go back and you look at what things were designed for, you find mosquitoes were designed to help pollinate plants. They weren't disease spreaders like they are today. Disease, it happened because of the fall. We go backwards in time, and you said it. No matter how far back we can go, we see death and disease. Well, that's because we believe what you're looking at on the fossil record occurred during the flood. So you saw all life, everything together in just one massive pile through all these different things of rock, and you see what looks like millions of years of death and disease and destruction. As where our model really doesn't show that. It says in the scripture that all animals were created to eat plants, and God said this was good. And when we go back in our model and we look, we find exactly that. I even made a video on that. You can see that all life can easily live on plants, even today. I think only except for cats. They have a gene that's broken that doesn't allow them to break down the amino acid that their body normally would make, so they have to require it for meat now. But pretty much everything has the ability to live off of plants. So if they can still do that today, obviously when their genetics were better and superior, they were able to thrive off of it even more. So our model shows that everything was good and it has fallen, and it's in a decayed state now, and there's more disease, and it's only going to get worse. So that's kind of like how we view it. It's called the genetic entropy model, and the model is mostly designed by John Sanford as predicting the extinction of the human race since the creation of man. And that's kind of his model. I just extrapolated that into animals and to try to show the exact same thing. So we wanted to show like everything was good, and then it fell, and now all of a sudden we have all these problems, and now we're blaming God for it. But in scripture it says it was because of you that the earth is cursed. And since that time, thorns appeared, and then all of a sudden animal turned against animal, and man turned against man, and man turned against animal. And then we have the world today, and we're wondering, why did God do this? Well, actually, we did it. He gave us one rule, and we didn't even do it. Basically, one rule. Don't eat it. We ate it. But it's, our model is pretty simplistic. But when you look at it, most people don't consider that as a thing.
And that's why I had Matt jump in there, because everything that you were talking about as kind of an issue to you as to is there a God? Why would he allow all this chaos in the universe? But that's exactly what our biblical based model would predict, just as Matt iterated, right? I mean, death, degeneration, and extinction after the fall. We would predict that things are going down and not up, and these are all the things that we actually see. And just like he talked about with the database with diseases, I mean, we see entropic degeneration literally on all levels. I mean, we see the rates of cancer they've skyrocketed. We see environmental related degeneration. I mean, we see Alzheimer's, dementia, autism. Clearly, people are saying has some kind of genetic component to it. Asthma, autoimmune diseases. I mean, these aren't good things, but these are all expected based on the fall. Because you can take this point right now of, say, accumulated genetic mutations and genetic diseases, and take that back to a point in time of least genetic entropy, say, in our genetics and in the universe. And that would be a point of creation, a point of perfection. And normally I'll ask, the evolutionists that I'm discussing, I'll be like, you say mutations are a source for variety. That's going to take your fish to fisherman. But why do we see this pandemic? Why do we see this entropic degeneration on all levels? And generally they can't explain it, when in fact we can explain it perfectly from our model. So what we see in this world, in this universe, when it comes to the chaos, when it comes to the decay, the fossil record that speaks of extinction, this is directly expected from, like I said, the biblical model and the fall.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, one thing that a guy always used to say to me from a Christian point of view is a good argument for you guys was that if a virus is going down or something like that, you say that God wouldn't want to intervene because then he would choose between his children, and then his other children would hate him for choosing the ones instead of the others. When you say that anyway, that's a good one that I know, just to give you for the future. But another one that what I mean is when you say that too, or anything like that, that he's, can't do it. It's just kind of goes back again. It makes you think, okay, well, if he can't do this, then he's just letting it be chaotic on purpose. And then from an evolutionary standpoint, you start thinking to yourself. And also really quick, I have to say from evolutionary standpoint, I think like evolution to be wrong at the beginning. It's like an interchanging thing that's science that interchanges with evolution. Okay. Right. So when I look at it that way, I think of it as, they always say that evolution is the strong survival of the fittest, right? And that's a species that can survive in a environment and breed in it. Basically, doesn't matter what the environment is, right?
Yeah, I would even call it, survival of the luckiest, because it's all about who's reproducing more, and that's not always exactly.
It kind of is
the fittest, whether
we like it or not. Well, the fittest, even though the fittest, they say it, but the fittest actually means that. It doesn't actually mean the strongest guy or whatnot. It just means that, like, for example, chickens again. Chickens are evolving, and they managed to keep coming down the line and hang out here with us, even though they're obviously not the strongest creature. But they made somehow some genetic decisions to let them keep coming into the future. Now, as they make these decisions, like Matt was saying, with the people changing the genetic code or genome, or what were you guys saying it was? You've been talking about it a while. The word.
Yeah, he was just pointing out that that genetic mutations, which are generally negative, right? They're like mistakes. They're typographical mistakes in a text. They're accumulating from generation to generation, degenerating us more and more, leading to more disease. Is kind of what he was getting at.
Yeah, I don't get that, because when you talk about evolution, they always talk about they evolve, but evolutions aren't always good. There's always bad ones. Like, for example, maybe if you get more brain power, you're going to lose, mass, health, all these other things that existed before. So maybe we gave up some good things to have what we have now.
They claim mutations
we used to have babies with soft heads, and now we have babies with stronger heads because they start evolving over time in a way, like. So that's what I mean. That's still to me a little bit chaotic. It's even choosing how we thrive. It's sometimes good, sometimes bad. And hell, sometimes we have people born with complete defects, and it's just like, why? Why is that not chaos? And sometimes don't you rather that be chaos?
Yeah.
Don't you rather not have God make mutations like that? Yeah.
Jack, can you read? I mean, like, are you fluent in reading in that, or? Because it was only just. Oh, good.
I'm sorry. As I said, I'm not a scientist like you guys or any of you guys, and I study these genomes a lot.
There's some stuff I want to post for you because I'm so sick of saying it over again. You've heard my explanation if you've watched us about that thing I saw in my lounge room, right? Look, what I want to do is this. In this chat section, when this video goes up, I'm going to put a comment in there just saying Jack. And they'll put some stuff in that comment and have a look at it if you want, or whatever. It's up to you.
And then I wanted to say something real quick too, Jack, because it seems like, especially in these times that we're living in, with the coronavirus and the pandemic and the mass hysteria that's going on. But most people don't even realize that viruses, and we talk about this quite frequently, the majority of viruses are actually beneficial to not only our bodies, but also to the ecosystem. The ecosystems of the world, the oceans, for example. So this all falls in line with what Ram, Matt, and myself were discussing. That when you take all of this chaos back to a point of, say, least chaos or least entropy, that is a point where the mosquitoes you brought up, they make sense. The viruses make sense. It's due to mutations that have entered our system and entered our world that have led to what we see today. You don't want to look at the world we see today, which is in a state of chaos. It's in a state of decay. You don't want to look at the initial creation in the same way that we see the world today would be my point. Like the viruses, I mean, people typically think of a virus as bad. Were you aware that viruses generally are beneficial and good?
Maybe in cases of vaccines.
Well, for example, in our bodies, we actually have trillions and trillions of viruses. You've probably heard it before. We have more bacteria in our bodies than we do cells. And yet we have more viruses in our body than we do cells and bacteria. And the viruses are actually being used to regulate the amount of bacteria and bacterial species we have in our body. So no, it's not just vaccine related. It's this symbiotic relationship that we see in our bodies and in the ecosystems between viruses and bacteria. So even viruses and bacteria that we look at as something bad is actually evidence for a creator.
Do you know, I mean, do people even know what a virus is?
Little itty bitty bug that just mutates itself.
No, it's defective machinery of information. It's like a defective machinery inside the cell.
Well, it wasn't originally defective, or else they wouldn't be beneficial. If a mutation, for one, when a virus crosses species, like this coronavirus, for example, it can go from good to bad. Or there's even some scientists, evolutionists, I believe, and creationists that are actually making the case. A lot of this is theoretical, that viruses we see today have actually been created in us by cellular parts, right? Because cells are packaging things in a variety of ways, and then oops, they've accidentally packaged something that is exactly what a virus is. So possibly a lot of this is theoretical, but possibly viruses came from our genetics than what most people typically think of. Like we have what look like viruses in our genome. That's when you can get into the like ERVs that we talk about and the retrotransposons or whatever. But point is, viruses in general, that I'm guessing you look to as something bad and negative, is actually in reality something good.
What Jack? I have a question for Jack. What's your opinion on viruses? Because I've heard different answers from atheists. Are they good? Are they bad? It's kind of like, I mean, atheists kind of want to have their cake and eat it too on the virus issue. I've heard some say that they're very bad and they shouldn't exist. And then some.
Do you mean immoral when you say bad, Tony? Are you talking bad like in a health sense?
I mean out in the environment, in nature, and yes, I mean morally. Because I've heard different answers on that.
Well, I think the question Tony's asking is perfect. So everything that we've just kind of iterated to you about viruses and the benefits of viruses. So now, would you concede that, okay, what I used to think about viruses as being something negative, I now see that, okay, these viruses are good for the ecosystems of the world and our human body.
Yeah, we would die of bacteria without the viruses. It's called phage. Without phage,
right,
we would die.
I definitely agree with you that, like, obviously they're good viruses and whatnot. But obviously this virus is
killed every day by viruses. And if the
I didn't hear you.
Weren't in the ocean,
what'd you say?
Jason, you're kind of in and out with your audio.
Oh, am I? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it sounded
Yes.
like you're behind me. It was weird.
Okay. Viruses in the ocean.
Behind you, there's Jason.
Can you hear me now? You can't hear me? Yes or no? Yes.
No,
Sounds like
I
a
can't.
commercial.
Well, you can't.
Yeah, that classic commercial. Like, praise.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay. Yeah. The viruses. There's viruses in the ocean kill 40% of the bacteria in the ocean every day. 40%. If the viruses weren't in the ocean controlling the bacteria, the ocean would overrun with bacteria and everything in the ocean would die.
Exactly.
So viruses are beneficial. The vast majority of viruses are beneficial. The very, very small amount of them mutate and become bad, and that's happened since Adam's fall. God said, "Don't eat from that."
Right, they're
Anyway,
defective. That means they're degrading, which follows with the fall of Adam. Absolutely.
And that's why a lot of the bad viruses are coming directly from our own genetics, because what started off good and beneficial has now turned into something bad and negative due to mutation, due to entropy. But I guess the point is, do you see now how all of these things are readily explainable from our model of genetic entropy? And even in the universe, the second law of thermodynamics, the law of increasing entropy, everything is winding down in the universe. If you take that back to a point of least increasing entropy, that would be a point of creation. And the first law of thermodynamics says that matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So obviously we know the matter is not eternal because of the second law of thermodynamics. So then there's kind of like a twofold problem for the atheists. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because both those laws necessitate a creator outside of the creation itself. I mean, think about it. God, that creator, he's been to all of our funerals. He's already seen the end from the beginning.
You see, like, as I said, in balance, like yin and yang with shit, like this it's like you got rats. We can live with them. You don't want to kill animals and stuff like that. But then when rats get out of control, they become a rat plague. It becomes a big, giant freaking problem. Now we got to kill them in numbers. We got to get rid of them. They become another problem. It's again, never ending problems. So you always have these problems constantly. We're fighting problems, new problems, hurricanes, plagues, viruses, everything that we have. We have food that's good for us, but then if we eat too much of it, it makes us fat and kills us. And there's good and bad with every damn thing that you come with. You can't find anything that is universally good, universally bad. There's balance between all of it. And I see that as another conflict. It's just fighting itself, and it's literally trying to kill us. It's the planet trying to get rid of us, trying to fight us off, and we need to find a way to fight back.
I would say sin.
And I look at it as a problem that needs to solve. Have you ever heard God loves a working man? I think find truth in that.
Yeah.
Everybody who just makes action. And so I don't look at that as a religious thing at all. I don't look at that virus as a religious thing. I look at it as an earth thing. Nature's trying to fight us, and we're competing. And we got to do something about it, basically.
Well, I mean, Jesus
Get
was
off
a
this planet,
revolutionary.
too.
He taught the opposite. He says to love, be selfless, and instead of thinking about yourself, think about others and help others. I would say.
Well, I mean, of course, help others. I mean, us as a species, not like me myself. Virus fighting humanity type thing.
So, would your answer be yes? It's actually a good thing for the population, or no? It's how do you where do you lean?
Oh no, I don't. I am very pro-human. Like, I don't like anything. I think we should take over this planet like a virus, move over to the next one, take those ones, and no matter what, try to keep as many people alive as possible throughout this process.
Well, Darwinism says the opposite. People need to continue to die in order to make advancements. So I mean,
that definitely puts us at a wall, a filter.
And if you're a colored ape,
that's a really good point.
You're a lesser than a white person.
Right. There are racist implications with Darwinism, but just like Tony said,
humanity, I don't know where in all people, I don't think there's a specific.
Do you love your kid? Do you love your kid?
Yeah.
would you want him to die to make an advancement for society or stop a disease? Would
If he
you
wanted,
sacrifice?
that's his choice.
You would say
Definitely
that
his choice to do with what he wants with his life. But many people make that decision, don't you think?
Well, I think it's amazing
Well-
that the Bible says we are all of one blood. You know, all the nations, we are all of one blood, and yet genetics, modern genetics, has now confirmed that you know there's not different races.
Don't think I'm a
One race,
racist. Don't
human
think
race.
I'm a racist in any way.
No, no,
We
I
breed
know.
together. I
No, it's a
100%
criticism
think
of evolution.
all people. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
We're just criticizing evolution, but I think it's just an amazing thing that the Bible has always said that, and now modern genetics, you know, proves that. But I think modern genetics, modern science in general, like the question that Tony was asking you, actually, Tony made a good point that according to evolutionism, you know, death brought man into the world, but according to our model, God brought man into the world.
So you're talking about homozygosity, right?
Yeah, I haven't said that word today there, Praise. But well, now, that's where I was getting at. Yeah, like Tony, he was asking you a good question that, like, so, you know, now do you agree that something like viruses and even bacteria that people typically look at as something bad in the world? Because I get that question all the time, like, why did God create bacteria? Why did God create viruses? Just look how bad they are. Look how much harm they cause. But
I never would have disagreed with that. No.
Yeah. So, okay. So you would agree that you know,
as I said, everything has a good and bad, but I just don't think you can also claim you can't just say that's God that did it because he did it for a reason. It was to be good and bad. You could still say just chaos did it to be good and bad because that's what chaos is. A whole bunch of good and bad shit.
Well, wait a minute. Here's a good question. So if what we see is chaos and everything's winding down, everything's out of control, decay, extinction, death, who wound it up? You know, if
then he could be just a starter.
Yeah, who's the starter?
Then again, you could do that. Could be your chaos god, where it said you got your Jesus God who seems to want to manipulate and help our species and guide it in a certain direction, which more like a shepherd type of God, one that seems to care about its children. And then you have another kind of God, a more chaotic God that just seems to be giving us the energy, the strength. And you could say prayer, for example. Every time I say, man, I just want the strength to keep sick, it binds people together. It creates this energy, and then it slowly pushes into us strength. You know what I mean? And then there's maybe a God that just is there. And then when we die, it just brings us back to life. That's it. That's all it does.
Why would you call it chaos, though? You know who Max Planck is, right? He's a deist. And I don't know why you would call it chaos just to get these laws going.
You could even have a chaos God, like just a God.
We're talking polytheism, though, and it just doesn't work because they're contingent.
I don't know any of them. I don't know which God that could be, and I don't think anybody can really prove what kind of thing is behind our push or what kind of thing is behind that started us.
I think logically it has to be one of the three big monotheistic religions, right? Either Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, because those are the only religions that actually will say and believe in a God that is outside of time, matter, and space. We know that the universe can't be eternal, and a lot of these polytheistic religions and gods, for example, especially like with the Greeks, their gods exist within the universe itself. Which obviously is not scientifically accurate.
Don't you ever think
it's the God of the Bible that tells us, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So that implies a God that's outside of his creation. And that's why I believe that God logically must be a personal God, because this universe, time, matter, and space had to have come from an outside source, which means God had to make a choice to bring forth this universe. So that would indicate a personal God. But I think that's a God that's distinct from all of your, you could just rule out, kind of like Matt said earlier, you can rule out all your Hindu gods, you can rule out your deist type gods, you can rule out all your polytheistic gods. It only leaves you with your three.
That's a similar argument that John Polkinghorne gives. You guys know him.
I do not know him, no.
Yeah, physicist. So similar argument. Hugh Ross puts forth the same argument.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's true.
Can I just test something out quickly? Can you guys hear me better now?
A little bit.
Yeah, you sound good.
Yeah, because I just found my headphones for my S9 Plus. that'll
Where
make
were
it
they
better.
the debate?
And I think it's the scripture that only it's only the Bible that gives us an explanation for the death, the decay, the chaos that we see in the world today, all based on the fall, all based on genetic entropy, as Matt and I were discussing. I mean, everything correlates perfectly with Genesis, the story of our beginning.
So, Jack, do you believe in evil and good?
No. I mean, again, if you think about it, all right, you murder somebody, it can be good, it can be bad,
Well, let's say a pedophile.
When people talk about evil, I actually have an evil thing. I consider waste to be evil. Our species, as a people, we have things that are found valuable to necessity to us to live, or whatever the reason. And if you hoard those things and waste those things and get rid of those things, we find that perception more evil. So say that, you have a little kid. We treasure little kids. And if somebody goes and kills a little kid, and obviously is going to really piss people off because it's extremely wasteful in every kind of imaginable way.
Well, Hitler had the same philosophy,
changes.
though.
So evil changes, you could say, because when people don't see something as bad anymore, they don't, like, for example, someone's life, where if you have a dictator or somebody that somebody decides to kill because they hate him, now his life's not valuable anymore. It's not as wasteful.
So Hitler let's just say Hitler threw 100,000 Jews in a
fucking wasteful.
Yeah, I mean, like, he threw them in an oven and they burn into ashes. You're saying that's not an evil act? You're saying that's just okay?
That's an extremely wasteful act. So I would say that would be evil.
Wasteful?
That would be the most extremely evil thing.
So that's
because you're just wasting life. You're wasting. Yeah, such waste. That's the perfect example of the most evil thing you could probably do, or up there with evil. It, obviously.
So the Bible covers the existence.
You just heard me. I said I wanted our species to live and go through the cosmos and eat this planet up. I don't want any of us to die. Not a single one of us. I think we're all really, really useful.
Right. But Darwinism wouldn't work that way. Even if we did colonize other planets, I'm sure plenty would die in the process.
Yeah. Maybe we're going to die sitting here on this planet just for, like, people talk about climate control all the time, but have you just thought about population? We are fucking screwed. I mean, if we don't do something about population eventually and become like Chinese and start making it rare to breed, or some more viruses happen, or we go to war, there's no way we can continuously fit on this planet forever, unless we start getting a lot smarter, or we start getting off this planet.
No, we'll never get off this planet.
Yeah,
you can fit every single human being on Earth in Loch Ness, like Ken Oven says, and he's right. Yeah. If you emptied Loch Ness and stacked every single person on top of each other, you could fit every single human being alive on Earth right now, all 7.5 billion in Loch Ness.
But you see, even in rats, even in all kinds of, the more people you slam together, the more likely you get disease and plague. So there could be all kinds of different problems that are going to continuously happen. We're going to have a big city that gets an earthquake and more people die. And, more people will die when any kind of hurricane goes through, because now we got more people in that city. So it's just, it's going to be a lot of death if we try to stay here. We got to spread out.
It doesn't matter where they go. It doesn't matter how horrible their lives are, or how short and horrible they are, or how they die. If they go to the afterlife and they believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, then the simple fact is they'll go to a paradise forever and ever. Now I'll
put a paradise? What would be a paradise to you, or anyone?
I'll put to, well,
Earth is my paradise. Like, this is where I want to be.
It says,
I don't want to be.
It says in the Bible that He's going to create a new heaven and a new earth. And we'll all have incorruptible bodies, and they'll be incorruptible forever, sin-free and incorruptible forever. But also
incorruptible existence as well. We won't have what SFT was covering, the degradation and everything being run down. The thermodynamics don't apply anymore.
No, we'll be perfect.
Right. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
like Adam was in the beginning before he
Pristine.
sinned.
Yeah.
When-
So, in other words,
Do you know
paradise
when you
is a
have this
pristine
perfect
place.
I'm sorry, I wasn't meaning
Oh,
to
no, it's
interrupt
okay. It's
you.
all good.
It's just he was talking, and I thought I had a minute there, but no, you're good.
That's
You
all
can
right, man.
talk.
Go.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Go.
I was saying, don't you think every once in a while that like these good and bad things, there is no, I don't see a peace. I don't see a heaven. Like, as I said, it's like, this is my heaven, and it's good because it has its bad. It has its, there's a way to test yourself. You see, there's no reason to get good if you have no reason to do anything. You won't test yourself. There's no challenge to it. And
That's
so that's
right.
kind of why the bad is there. It's to test your mettle. It's to test your spirit, you could say.
But
Now,
that's
if
what
we go to
I
this
suppose.
heaven place, I would just want to come
That's
back.
part of it.
If there's a heaven place, there's probably no test to it, because then what bad would be there? You know what I mean? That's why I don't get the whole heaven. If anything, I would want the reincarnation thing more than I would want a heaven.
Well, I mean, heaven
Well,
isn't gained by works, so no one is merited to be in heaven. That's why it is heaven, because no one can be self-righteous. It's all done through the work of Jesus Christ. So, think about that too.
And it's a free gift, man. Would you ever be willing to receive it? I mean, would you ever accept Jesus in any way whatsoever? What amount of evidence do you think would convince you?
Oh
Luca,
man,
just look at the chat
specifically
after
Jesus.
the comment section.
He'd have to come down and like show some history lessons of him doing it. Yeah, he'd be like, "Hey man, check out what I did. I am the real Jesus." Because it'd be hard now, even if a giant being came down and it was like, "Hey, America, the planet Earth, I am Jesus." Like, you'd still be like, "I don't know, is he? Or is it some alien trying to pretend and trick all you Christians?" You see what I'm saying? You wouldn't even fucking know. But I'm not. Listen, I mean this. What you guys believe in is good. You know what I mean? And like the thing about Jesus is he is a perfect icon. Perfect. And I mean this because he's completely selfless is what I was trying to say. He lived every second. He was trying to live to help people. He was trying to almost do the same thing I was telling you before, not saying like, but he cared about the humans more than anything else. And as they say, he died for his sins. He died for everyone to have a second chance, and he did it not caring about himself at all. And when people think I need to be like that guy, well, fuck, you're going to make a great world, right?
Bingo.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Well, Jack, you're making a lot of sense here, man. You just need to convince Aaron Ra and all the other atheists.
Man,
you're kind of answering. You're answering a lot of your own questions, man.
No, I've talked with a lot of these people, a lot of people about it. I was just kind of giving you a different perspective on it, but no, I'm going to get off of here. But I was enjoying talking to you guys. You guys are definitely smart people. But yeah, Mel, I'll be watching you again. I subscribe to you, huh?
When this video goes up, I'm going to leave some stuff in the comment section, so have a look.
Oh yeah, I definitely will.
Okay, mate.
Good talking to you, Jack, man. You're a good guy,
nice
brother.
Talking to you, Jack.
Stay safe.
Yep, be careful.
Yeah. God bless you, man. Have a good
bless,
day.
Jack.
Good night, I mean.
Later, Jack.
Yep, you too.
All right, brother.
See you, mate. See ya.
So the two big guns are gone, so...
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, guys.
The truth in that.
Too. We need Tony here, too, man. That's good. You're pretty
good,
that's
Tony. Right.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to talk to Luca. That was cool, man.
Yeah.
He's a
character. I'm glad we got to give him those links. He said he got those links that I gave him, so that's good.
All right. I've been sending.
I basically wrote out word for word everything James Tour said. I wrote it out from his video, word for word.
Yeah.
And I also wrote out word for word everything Stephen Meyer said about the protein and how to build a protein by random chance. I wrote it word for word everything. So lots of stuff like that I gave him about the beginning and the universe, and showing him that they just what they believe is absolutely crazy. They call us crazy. It makes me angry.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They've never shown proteins anywhere.
Are you guys familiar with Aaron Dembski?
Oh yeah, he's good. And Doug Axe.
Doug Axe, yeah. I mean, If people look this up, it's called complex specific or specified information inside the cell.
Yep. Yep.
That's the one that did the mathematical equation for Stephen Meyer. Was Douglas
And it
Axe.
puzzles me how they think that simple information you can get from chemicals, and then go into CSI. That doesn't compute. That's not even logical.
They're just gonna push it to somewhere else where they think it can happen. That's all they're gonna do.
At best, it would be Shannon's information, and I mean that's like scrambled information. It's not specific. So they're
specified.
They're dead. They're dead in the water, and just like the abiogenesis, it's dead in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's all
You're never going to get sequenced information to arise through unguided natural prebiotic chemistry.
No, it's only ever going to break down and go backwards.
Hydrolysis, everything it disperses. It's the abiogenesis is filled with more problems than progress.
It is.
Yeah, that's right.
And then also Neff, I don't know if you've seen some of his stuff, but he has a paper, an actual paper that says that information inside the cell is prescriptive.
Yeah.
So it even prescribes what to do. Like that goes in the realm of ontology. That's metaphysics.
Self-repairing.
Well, it's multi-layered. It's multi-layered. That's 4-dimensional, the genome. So trying to get something 4-dimensional out of a...
you guys let me know what you want to do. I can come back with Fuzz Rana. I mean, I know he did email me. And he's the biochemist.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see him again.
Yeah, he's great.
I'd like to see him debate somebody.
Yeah, he took on Aaron Rod. He took on Aaron Rod. He had no answers for the problems with the RNA world. He just said, well, I read a few papers on RNA, but I just stick with evolution.
Right, he'll just say hasn't been answered yet. Science will find out someday.
Science gonna, So just push it to another planet and keep it hidden somewhere, and it just happened. Right. Yeah.
Wonder if that'll all fit in there. I don't think so.
You know, if we said that though about God, just leave that away about God. We'll figure that out another day. I mean, they would demonize us and villainize us.
But I would say abiogenesis hides the same way God does,
Right. Yeah, so it's divine hiddenness for Christians, and it would be some or something hiddenness with yourself from abiogenesis.
Exactly.
All right, guys.
Give them another 10,000 years. You know they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, because science is pretty dang good. The scientific method is gonna do it. It'll conquer the world.
Yeah.
Current rate of genomic decay will be gone in 1,000 to 1,500 years.
Right.
We'll be finished. All life on Earth will be extinct. Human life will be extinct.
Yeah.
Within 1,000 years, if it keeps going the way it's going, which it obviously is, then we're heading towards extinction. Jesus Christ will come back a long time before that.
Amen.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean,
long time before that.
The thing is too, like, it's most philosophers, a lot of scientists and physicians understand humans are spiritual, and we're not just programmed robots and just like playing to the tune of chemicals and atoms bumping into each other. There's more to life. It gets way more in depth than that. We're complex. We're introspective creatures. We have morality. We have reason, intelligence, and none of that stuff is addressed through any physical material process.
Yeah, they're having a hard time explaining consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, even what did Lee Cronin say about consciousness? He said he doesn't even believe it exists or something ridiculous. It's like just I posted denial. It in the.
Yeah, you got to watch that debate with James Torr where he just admits he doesn't know. Oh, okay. Well,
I watched it from beginning to end.
Oh man,
it was funny.
Yeah, just pure arrogance, man. Yeah. He doesn't know
idiot.
what life. Yeah,
fool.
He doesn't know
Total
what life is.
Fool.
Yeah. Life
doesn't know
isn't
it.
designed. Life isn't designed, but he's going to design it in his state-of-the-art designed laboratory.
Yeah, what a laugh. What a joke.
It's
What a
really,
joke.
Gotta
it's
find
really
out.
just a religion, atheism. Because you think about it, 97% of the world is spiritual or in some form, or fashion. So you have this real small, minute population that is atheistic, and then I think that's their own philosophy. Like we're just like Darwinian, like the Darwinian type of outlook. Like we're just molecules in motion and animals competing with each other. I mean, that's what we're reduced to with atheists. So
Yeah.
it's the battle of philosophy. This is what the Bible talks about, and to not be deceived by vain philosophy and belief systems out there. So it's called, I think Christianity is far superior than any other philosophy or worldview out there.
Yeah. They don't agree, of course, but
I'm really sad I didn't work out this microphone before the debate began.
yeah.
And my thing, and my that I can turn my camera off like that and get my picture to come up like that. That would have been much better. Oh well.
Yeah. We could hear you good. If you guys want me back, let me know, man. I mean, I had a good time.
Yeah, we want you back.
Yeah,
Bloody
that's
oath.
pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I like that original
man.
life stuff.
Yeah, if
should
you
get
could bring
you in
that,
a
I
debate,
love
man.
listening to chemists. I'd love to listen to two chemists, an atheist, an evolutionist chemist, biochemist, and a creationist biochemist go at it. I'd love it. I just love it.
We need you and
Creationist is gonna
T-Joe
kill him.
to go in the ring together.
Oh, he wouldn't agree, and he would just say that it could still happen somewhere. Same type of denial.
Yeah, he would tell you this is the
Yeah.
testable hypothesis, and then he would say,
he actually. Well, I sent in a question the other day, and I said that none of this stuff can happen under prebiotic chemistry, and he says, "Oh, it doesn't have to." So where would abiogenesis happen? Again, it always hides. It always hides somewhere where they never have to show it.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Idiots. It's always in some. Yeah, if you can't get started, just a simple protein. A simple protein. There's 10 to the 80th or 90th power atoms in the universe, and it takes just to form one protein. I think how long was it that he said? I think it was 140 amino acids long.
Yeah,
it's
and that's a small one.
Yeah, and that's a small one. They go up to like 38,000.
Right.
38,000, I think, is the largest protein, or 40,000 or 50,000 or whatever it is. It's a lot, but the average one's about 400 amino acids long, and he's picking one out. I think it's about 160 amino acids or 140 or whatever it is, and it takes one with 160 zeros after it, and that's more. That's double.
Yeah.
That's double the. That's as many tries as double the amount of atoms in the known universe.
Right.
Atoms. And there's millions of atoms in the head of a pin.
Yeah. And we're delusional. Yeah, and we're delusional.
And when they don't have faith, they believe in actual science, and we believe in a fairy in the sky or some rubbish like that.
Right.
A fairy tale, yeah. You're just a bunch of ancient goat herders that wrote up a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah, no way.
They believe in magic without the magician.
Yeah, that's even more absurd.
Yeah, they know there has to be a beginning. They know, of course, you've got the big crunch theory where it all comes back together and then goes back out again, but that still doesn't explain where it all came from in the first place. Yeah. And it doesn't matter how many universes you've still got the same laws in each universe, so it's not going to help you no matter how many you've got. Even if you had an infinite number of universes, you literally would need an infinite number, literally. Not infinite. For life to happen by chance, by pure random chance, through chemicals washed out of rocks and blah blah, all that sort of stuff, you need literally to have infinite amount of universes. So that means basically that the universe is infinite, and there's just infinite amount of universes, and we just happen to be the lucky one where it happened in, and that's how desperate they're getting,
But that
saying
still
stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, but that doesn't even get you to the laws of logic. Laws of logic. I don't know if people know this. They're immaterial.
Well, 50,000, what is it? One with 50,000 zeros after it. Any number higher than that is considered, and one chance in one with 50,000 zeros after it is the maximum law of probability. Any higher than that with 50,000 zeros after it is considered to be absolutely and completely impossible. So if you go to 51,000 zeros, one chance in 51,000 zeros, impossible. Yeah. Impossible.
Right.
So,
but I'm saying there's things that transcend the universe anyway. Like the laws of logic, they're immutable, they're immaterial, and they, I mean, so they don't change. But they're also not subject to space. So there's space. They're not contingent on space. So what would
you've
account
got
for
millions.
that?
Going back to the amino acids, you've got over 100 amino acids in nature. Only 20 of them are used in life, and they're the left-handed ones. And amino acids are naturally left and right-handed. And when each amino acid joins, it's got a peptide, and each peptide is a right and left-handed peptide. So they need a right-handed peptide with a left-handed amino acid, and they have to just magically bump into each other at the right times in the right places, and just all form and come. And this is just one protein. And I mean, then you have to do that. You do that out 140 different times. And if one protein is out of place in that sequence, one amino acid is out of place in that protein, in that sequence, it'll just fall apart and be destroyed instantly. Not to mention you've got water. Water's the universal solvent, and it can't happen in water because water would just dissolves proteins, and there's just so many problems, like what I explained to Luca with the carbohydrates and everything. It can't happen. It just can't happen. If you have that much trouble, that's why they go to the RNA virus. That's why they always go to, it must have been an RNA virus that was first, because they're so simple. But that doesn't work either, because the RNA virus needs a host, and how did they, it's they're lost.
Well, they like to keep saying it's science, and they keep using that word, but
it's not science.
Well, they say it is, and it's a hypothesis.
No,
yeah. Well,
but isn't there the nucleotide lock? I don't know if you guys know, Stephen Meyer kind of does some good stuff on this too, and he says they have to find the right combination. If you had let's say a bicycle lock with a combination, it'd be like a mile long or something. So they even have to find the combination to that or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, you'd have to have a bicycle lock, I think, with 20,000 numbers on each wheel, and something like billions of wheels, or something like that. Or 20 numbers. Sorry, 20 numbers on each wheel, with hundreds and hundreds of wheels, or millions of wheels, or tens of thousands of wheels. How are you going to do that? How are you going to roll those numbers and get that to all line up perfect, just by random chance, just by wind and rain and water and it's so impossible. It's just not funny. Pick up a rock, pick up a pebble off the ground. That's impossible. That matter.
It's like Jason.
We lost you. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go all day on this though. So I think it's like 3.
Yeah, man. We'll wrap it up. I guess I'll get some sleep.
Yeah, it's like 3 here in the morning.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's what time is it? It's 20 minutes past 9. Sorry, 20 minutes past 7.
If you guys want to get
at PM.
Yeah, it's 4 here. If you guys want to get Luca back one day, I'll get more prepared. I'll get some of these papers that I had. I didn't have anything good, really.
Luca said that he wanted to bring one of his chemist friends because he wasn't very good at talking. So he wanted to bring one of his chemist friends to debate. I mean, I know I could destroy his chemist friend, and I know nothing, So I know your biochemist friend is just going to make a mockery out of him. I'd love to see that, man. I want to be there. I want to see it.
Yeah, we need to set up that debate on SFT. I'd love to watch that. That'd be something I'd be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be a fun one.
All right,
Well, let me know, guys.
So we're gonna.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some rest.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut this
Thank you.
down.
All
Everyone,
right. See you, mate. God bless you.
God bless.
God bless. Good night, guys.
Good night, man.
Night,
All right.
Tony.
So we're gonna shut
Yeah,
this down.
yeah.
Everyone in the
Okay.
chat, we appreciate you coming on in on SFT. It was a good chat tonight. We got into the Abiogenesis though. It was,
I'm sorry about all the problems.
Oh no.
I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry, man. It won't happen again now that I've worked out this microphone
Freaking Aussies.
and I've worked out a few.
I'm just kidding. It's all good. So we're gonna.
All right, guys. See you soon. Have a good night.
See you,
Later.
mate.
All right.
See ya.
Later.
See ya.
Good night, everyone in the chat. See ya. God bless.